Yo, what's up, guys? Happy Saturday. Welcome back to Diorama Talk. Another week down and another Diorama Talk that is being kicked off. This week, we got an amazing artist. You guys all know and love this artist. He is well known for his terrains, especially his trees and his rocks here lately. But before we get into that, let's talk about some channel updates. So the two milestones that we have in place, and this is for subscribers, 750 subscribers and 1,000 subscribers. And we are well on our way to hitting those numbers. We are less than 100 away from that first one, that 750 mark subscribers for that mystery box of tools that 796 and I put together. And then we are closing in on that 1,000 subscriber mark. And at that 1,000 subscriber mark, we have the Ender Creality 3 new in a box, ready to go to that one lucky subscriber who wins that. So, guys, keep doing what you're doing. Share it. Let people know what's going on here. Let people know about the artists that are coming on each week and how great of a job I'm doing as a host. And, you know, come hang out with us every Saturday in the live, because not only are we giving away stuff at those marks, but we give away a figure every night, every Saturday night. Thank you to Toy Maestro and his grateful sponsorship to this YouTube channel. This is tonight's giveaway, and as usual, it'll be on the artist to give that away. But without further ado, let's bring him in. The man, the myth, the legend, the artist that puts ruh and rock and stuh and stone and truh and tree. We have Ron with Lawless Studios.
Hey,
Yo,
hey,
what's up, dude?
what's going on, brother?
Welcome to the channel. How are you?
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. That that intro was awesome, man. I'm doing great.
Well, Ron, so I'm going to put it on you tonight to give away this figure, this Black Series figure, new in a box. So at the end of the night, you're going to pick one lucky person from the live stream, you know, to take that home. Anyway, so for those that don't know Ron, and I'm sure there's not many, let's go and get into your elevator pitch. Just that 30-second of who Lawless Studios is.
All right, let's get it. But yeah, I'm Ron at Lawless Studios. I, create all types of different dioramas, but I definitely specialize in, terrain, outdoor type of environments. So yeah, I would say that's my specialty, but I also tinker in, a little bit of everything else. There you go.
Yeah, actually, I have one of your pieces from last year, which is a brick sidewalk piece. And dude, I love that piece. I was telling you backstage how, like, when I'm building out bricks, I'll go refer to that because I love the style. The realism is there. And I try to, kind of map my brick size to that, at least, especially on when I was first making bricks, because it's such a great looking piece and it looks so real. The blocks look so real.
Thanks. I definitely appreciate that, especially the work you're putting out, man. I mean, definitely.
Hey, there's great mentors in the community like yourself and Oilers Workshop. So it's really, it's humbling to be able to be here tonight with you and talk about this. So
Well, thanks for having me. I definitely appreciate, having me on, and I'm excited.
awesome. All right, I'm going to run through the live chat, see who's here tonight. If you see any names that you're familiar with or may be here for you, feel free to shout them out.
Okay.
But here we go. Toy Rensu was here first. He was here an hour early, asking if he's too soon. You're never too soon. So thank you for coming through. High School Creations is here. Toy Malarkey, what's up? Star Marvel, yo, always here. So we got the usual suspects here. The what do you call them at the bar? The usual, not the usual. I forget what you call them.
The regulars.
The regulars. There we go. We got the regulars in here. All right. Cerebral Deep, Random Diorama. What's up? White Mike, Vegeta. What's going on, Mike? Mr. C in the house. Bearded Builds. What's going on? If we're not careful, we may get a Canuck 4 on here as well. I've missed a whole bunch of people. Sorry. Pickles Gone Rotten. What's up? Darth, what's going on? Dubot 9000. Hello. Welcome. Marcus Yee, what's up? Happy Saturday. 796 Studios in the house. What's up? Mario. Clockwork Orgy, what's going on? And I think that's a roll call for now. Cool.
So thanks for everybody for being here. Definitely appreciate it.
Yeah. So there's all the stuff we have to do. Now we can just hang out and talk.
Let's do it. Yes.
Dude,
Diorama talk.
dude, that piece you got in front of you, you've been teasing for a couple of days now on Instagram, huh?
Yes. Yes. Yeah. This one, I'm kind of, playing with some different ideas as far as using this poly blend to create, a more realistic type of dirt. And so with that, I want to say, at the store you can get it in different colors. But this one, I was trying to paint it to see, if I can make the colors attach, how durable will it be for the action figures? Just fun kind of tinkering, experimental, type of decisions going on here. But as far as like inspirations, definitely if you've ever seen the first Never Ending Story and the Swamp of Sadness, but yeah, that's kind of what I was, going for here. But yeah,
it's cool because even the muds, I like how you use the shine and the gloss to really give it that wet mud look, because it still looks wet. I mean, it looks like you could dip your finger in it and it would be mud.
perfect. Yeah, I just hit it with another coat earlier to kind of seal the paint down, and then I have a couple areas when I'm going to add some water effect to it as well, to really kind of give it that swampy, kind of dreadful vibe.
That's dope. And you got your usual rockscape going on back there.
Yeah. I always try to like some of the first dioramas that I made, they had a tendency to be very flat, and kind of like one-dimensional in a sense. And so, since I've started, I've just been kind of tinkering with like silhouettes in the background, to kind of, because the base usually it has to be flat somewhat, right? And especially for types of figures, that we mess with, depending on, if they have ankle pivot, traction on their feet, sometimes they won't stand on an incline. So it's like trying to kind of tinker with, or like blur that line of like, too flat versus something that's too steep to where they'll, wind up falling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's dope. So let's talk about that a little bit, especially this piece. I see some roots and stuff hanging out here. What are you using for that?
This, I want to say, what was it? At Michael's, they have a really cool style of branches that really has like a 3 3/4, 1/12 scale look to them. And actually, one of those are, sorry, this is orientations backwards. Can you see the tree? Okay, there it is.
Yep, see the tree.
So there's a tree there. And so these are the branches that you can get from Michael's. And so when they were out of stock, because they're a seasonal item, and so literally I was scouring the web for different branches or anything like that. My girlfriend, she actually found these particular ones, and I hadn't found a use for them yet. And while I was working with this particular dio, I was looking at some pics from the Never Ending Story and noticed all like the dead trees and the roots and stuff. And I was like, they have bendy wire in there. That's like the perfect place to use them. But yeah, and that's the cool thing about dioramas as well, is always kind of like, whether you're at a hobby store, an antique store, just out and about, always kind of looking to see what can fit in scale with what we're building,
Pickles Rotten says tree talk.
All day.
Yeah, that's dope. I bet you had probably like drawers of just stuff you've seen that you'll use at a future build or something like that, just tucked away, squirreled away for future use.
I feel like a hoarder in some of those senses, where it's like I'll use it eventually. And like I said, because I want to say I've had these for almost a year and hadn't, because but yeah, they just didn't have a tree. Like they look like a tree, but the scale is just not quite right. They're a little too sparse,
Right.
But like I said, using them for roots, I mean, it was literally perfect. So yeah, so I always try to hold on to whatever that may be. I mean, yeah, especially when I first started, like not necessarily bottle caps, but how some types of food, they'll have like interesting packaging and stuff like that, where you're like, yeah, that could be used for you know, a turn valve, or, you know, just all that type of stuff.
Yeah, my kids are into like those pouch yogurts, and they always have that cool looking top that kind of looks like some sort of, you know, exhaust fin or something. And I'm like, I'm gonna do something with those one day.
Yep, yep.
Yeah, yeah,
Heck
that's
yeah.
cool.
Thank you.
So the rest of this, is this like typical XPS foam, or are you using something else here?
Yeah, this was XPS foam. Then usually I'll use a layer of Sculpting, which is, it's basically just a paper mache. And, you know, it's ground up to a point that you can make dirt mounds, you know, whatever type of terrain or space filler that you need, instead of using actual building materials that have more of, you know, more dangerous chemicals in them, I guess you could say. But yeah, so this is more like art focused, and it creates, you know, some really good textures and terrains and stuff. And then on top of that, I use the poly blend, which is a grout for, you know, like sinks, stovetops, all that kind of stuff. So it's cool because once it hits water, like I said, it's like concrete, so it just almost immediately solidifies.
Nice. So it also gives you like a hard coat then too, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Now with this one, like I said, because of the grout that I was using was a lighter color, you know, if I don't put a sealer on there, if you were to scratch that or drop a figure on it, it could, you know, expose the natural color of the grout. So that's why I figured if I put a pretty healthy amount of sealer on there, you know, not to the point that it sticks to your character's feet, but to the point that it, you know, it does the trick as far as sealing the project down. So it's like trying to find that nice little balance between the two. But yeah, I'm super excited to do the water part though, because like I said, I think that's really gonna to top this piece off for sure.
That's
And I
so
try to
dope.
put foreground pieces in there because I'm always thinking about the photography aspect and then also the display aspect, you know. So trying to make sure you put those little pieces in there that'll take up, you know, and those principal rules of photography as far as, you know, making sure you got something in the foreground, middle ground, background. So this, you know, slightly helps out the artist, you know, to where it's already kind of set up for him and ready to go.
Nice. And then so your rockscapes there, is
Hmm.
that a different type of foam, or is that layered like XPS foam?
Yeah, that was using the layered effect. I want to say I used two of the 2-inch pieces of foam.
Mhm.
And what I've been experimenting with lately is just trying to get you know, the pricing to where it's like affordable, but yet it's still detailed, you know. Because even when I had first started, you know, I don't have the, you know, the money to collect a lot of hot toys, but I love their their, you know, ideal with craftsmanship and the quality, you know. So it's like I want to do something or put out the quality work that would be looked at as like hot toys material, you know, for 112 scale stuff. Um, but yeah, so that's the mark with everyone where it's like, okay, like with this one, for instance, normally I do my pieces where they're modeled in the front and on the sides,
Uh-huh.
right? But again, that adds to the price. So it's like I can add more detail to the top and take away that detail on the side to kind of balance out that pricing a little bit better. Um, so yeah, so that's, you know, that's one of the things I love about dioramas in general, is just the problem solving and the critical thinking aspect that goes into almost every, you know, I mean, unless you're doing repeat dioramas to where you've made it before, so it's just kind of that muscle memory at that point. But um, it's always the new stuff, you know, like that one I was showing you backstage, where this one's got excited. And those are the, like I said, those are the pieces that I love, to where it's like something I've never tried before, and just totally, you know,
Exclusive.
yes. So yeah, and so with this one again, you know, as I was just talking about the stacking method, you know, and you'll see a lot of like beginners and stuff doing the stack method, and a lot of a lot of places that they run into trouble with is blending the two together, you know. So how do I blend this, you know, this layer on top with the bottom layer? And once you figure that out, then like I said, you then upgrade to the where, you know, again, you know, like with this one, I'm trying to get away from flat, you know, the flat diodes.
Right.
And because they're not interesting, it's just my, like, mentally, I've seen it and I've done it, you know, so many times. Like with the rock dioramas, I think I've made at least I want to say close to 100. But so either way,
Wow.
it's like, you know, I've kind of hit a point of where it's like, how far can you take that? So now, like I said, I think with this particular method, it's going to be very interesting. I mean, because this could be great for backgrounds, foreground shots. I mean, you could, if you get some good composition with it, this could be the whole, you know, shot in itself. But yeah.
So that's dope. And this is going beyond just your normal diorama making. This is actually engineering, you know, your piece. You're skeletonizing it. Like I pointed out earlier, those triangles, like those make perfect circles when they are not perfect circles, but good curvature. Even though that they're, you know, a particular hard shape.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, you know, especially guys dabbling and really get into the 3D printing. Because see, I went to school for game art design, so you know, and you know what I'm talking about, where it's all about geometry. You know, like even though you have the whole picture of whatever it is, usually you can look at the wireframe of the, you know, whatever project or whatever it is that you're working on. So this kind of went back to that as well, where I was like, you know, I remember, you know, like I said, usually it starts with squares and then it gets broken down into triangles to really create like intricate shapes and stuff, whether it's on a character or a fire hydrant or something like that.
Right.
So yeah, this one's definitely got my interest. And then with the static grass that I've been kind of tinkering around with, this is like a little sample piece. And so, you know, sometimes I just say, you know, especially recently, sometimes I just say, just go for it. Like, don't even do a sample piece, just go for it, you know, and don't worry about messing up. Just do it, you know. And then other times where it's like, it requires a little bit more planning, especially more architectural type pieces where it's like, let me, before I go on this long endeavor, let me test this out real quick just to make sure I'm not going to mess it up.
Yeah, that point of no return, right? You don't want to hit that. Then you're scrapping pieces. A good point made by Random Diorama, the polygons for a game, exactly what he was describing, right? The inner working of, you know, 3D design in a soft form. But here he's got it in real time, real life.
Yes. And, you know, because even like on some of the lives that I do, I always try to talk about the silhouettes of your projects. And so with this one, you know, I went ahead and cut out my, you know, my base, and then I went ahead and got my silhouette for the back of the project, which is what you're looking at here. And then I got the side going because I knew I wanted it to be an incline. But also, you know, like I said, especially when you're working with those stack pieces, you know, there's sometimes where you want to do a divot in, you know, or you want to go down. And so if you have all these stacks, if you cut down into that foam, you just wasted all of that, you know. When if you do it like this, it seems like it's going to be a little bit more calculated as to how you want it to be versus, you know, because sometimes you don't know, you know, it's like you'll have an idea, I want a hill, but what will it actually look like when you actually start doing it? And that's, so I feel like this would be, definitely more calculated for sure.
Yeah, that's going to be dope. I can't wait to see some of those in progress, you know, updates. So that's what you're working on, and then kind of the future work. Let's dive into a little bit about Ron in the past, where you came from, what kind of inspired this work. So first question is, what is some of those first, like early, maybe even childhood or maybe high school, like, you know, you being creative? Has it always been that way? Was there a trigger?
Let's see. I would say, I mean, even as a kid, as far as like with action figures, I was always building little hideouts out of like VHS tapes, you know, using them as like little stack building blocks and building rooms and, you know, all types of little hideouts and stuff. Or even go into like shipping boxes, you know, and so I have like little cutout doors and little hideout, you know, little flaps where you can bend them in and drop your Ninja Turtles down. And what's funny, I mean, I didn't forget about that, but with the past couple dios, I've kind of like reached back to how I felt then with those like rudimentary things. And then I'm like, you know, I've always wanted to have a tunnel. Like, let's try a tunnel, or, let's try, because, I feel like that's one thing that a lot of people miss when they build a diorama is the interaction between the action figure and the diorama itself.
Yeah.
So anytime you can have your character, even if they're just, putting a foot up on, on the piece, is way more interactive than just having them standing there, So then once it comes to them, like maybe instead of doing a wide hallway, you're doing, something where they kind of have to squeeze through there and put their hands on the wall. So, stuff like that. But going back to like my past and everything, what was it? I want to say in high school was really when I started drawing portrait shots of like Dragon Ball Z and Spider-Man, stuff like that. And one of my best friends at the time, I would draw it out and then he would add the shadows because I wasn't good at that at the time. And then watching what he would do to my drawing, I just kind of took notes on that. And then, I started, doing the shadowing part. Then after high school, I wound up going to art school to study game art design. But I dabbled in typography, graphic design, like I said, of course, the video game stuff. But even then, it's funny because I didn't really dabble with terrains, My whole mission was, I always loved action figures and being able to like, manipulate them. So if the best I could get was in the computer, even though I couldn't actually like touch it, I was happy with that. And, in games too, the jobs are all broken down. If you're a character artist, you're never working on the terrains, it's like you're kind of doing that specific thing. And so, but, once I started collecting again and, noticed that action figures were getting better articulation, they weren't getting as loose as they were back in like the Toy Biz days. So I was like, wow, now the action figures or, what I was trying to create in school is like given to me. So now I don't even have to worry about making it anymore. It's already like ready. I have all my favorite characters that they do. So now I just need the terrain, and so that's where that kind of came in. Especially, shout out to ACBA for sure. Cause that was, one thing where I was always like, where are these people getting these, whether it was like a dumpster or trash cans to just, just little types of accessories where I'm like, where are they getting that stuff from? And with a little research and, looking up people like Al Figures, trying to remember some of the OGs, McBay was a good one. I feel like I'm missing one more, but either way, watching their videos, definitely, I was like, oh man, because again, I'm like, I have an art background. This is like right up my alley,
Right.
And so yeah, so that's kind of where it took off. And me and my friend Daniel, some of you guys know him as Phoenix Blue. We started just experimenting with cardboard again because it was one of those things where it's like I like that, but do I feel like investing enough time, to go get foam and possibly mess it up or so we were like, let's just build some stuff out of some boxes, so we wound up building like a little street scene. I mean, like literally we were like cutting cardboard like bricks, and like pasting them up on the wall, and it was super basic, but at the time we're like, look, it's like a whole little setup and everything. Like it was so fun. And with the support of my girlfriend and family and everything, and just being like, just try it, just get you some foam and go for it, And so yeah, so definitely tried that. I want to say me and Daniel, we had done like a project where we were working on it was either an apartment or something like that. And I know we did like a kind of like a little crater piece too while he was working on something. And what was it? I want to say before he had left, he was like, man, something about trying a rock diorama. And I was like, huh, all right. And so then the next day I'm like, hey, check this out. And he's like, you just made a rock diorama? And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, dude, what the heck, And yeah, so that's kind of literally where it like took off. And then posting stuff up on Facebook. And of course, I think I heard one of the other guys on the diorama talk talking about it, where people were like, where'd you get that? Or did you make that? Or, and that just kind of bumps it into, yeah, let me, see if other people like it. And yeah, so it definitely took off.
And what's so awesome about that is the community you're seeing, like the things you're doing today, and like they kind of miss out on those early steps of, you know, cardboard where you guys started, because, you know, there wasn't as many people making now. The more people that are making, the more that knowledge is being passed down, and you're seeing
Mhm.
all these great artists come in, you know, out the gate with these amazing pieces, which is phenomenal. But that's all hands to the people that, you know, have came before us, like you know, Al Figures. So, you know, all the appreciation should be bubbling up to you guys, because, you know, without
Oh,
that, we might not be where we are today.
yeah. Well, I appreciate it, but yeah, like Al definitely is like the Godfather, like for sure, the Godfather.
Mhm.
And him and the other name that I forgot was Bob the Odd. I want to say his name was, but literally those were, you know, and that had to be what probably like 8, 9 years ago that those guys were putting out, you know, their tutorials. And that's why you see so many like brick buildings or alleyways, is because literally they were the first ones to do it. So it's kind of like the introductory, you know, thing to do. And I mean, and like I said, even with that being the introductory piece, like that, the brick building that you were making, I mean, you know, because that's how a brick building is made, is by separate bricks, you know. So when you build it out of separate bricks, it just, you know, in your mind, it literally activates like that's what it is, you know, instead of it being a facade of fake, you know, it's like, no, I literally put each brick on there.
Right. Yeah, if you can trick the eye, like everything else will fall into place. And I think I might have actually heard that from you. So like when I'm building, I'm like, what will make me, just by looking at it, even out the corner of my eye, make it believable? And
Yes.
that paired with like painting and then adding in like sunlight, which I picked up. You know, every diorama talk, I'm picking up a tip from somebody. So I add
Right.
all those together, right? And it just adds to it, especially in pictures, dude. Like it'll you know,
It
trick
does.
people into thinking stuff is real. So
Yeah, I totally agree. And that's why, you know, even something like scale really matters, because like let's just say on that one piece I was showing you, had I used real sand on there, I mean, you know, you might say like, oh yeah, that's nice, but again, your brain just naturally knows the size of like what a person looks like versus what sand looks like. And
right.
so if I put a 112 scale figure on there, it's just there's going to be a detached, you know, with your mind that you're like, you know, something off about it. I'm not sure what it is, but you know, it's good. And so, yeah, if you can start learning those little things, you know, or even, you know, a lot of artists where they want to build something, but they don't want to go look up reference. And that really tends to hurt them. You know, one of my art teachers, he gave me the example, which I've given on some of my live shows, is that if you think of a bicycle, you know, everybody knows what a bicycle looks like. But if I asked you to draw just a basic bicycle, like, you know, as far as like where the cogs are and how the chain works and all that stuff, and the body of the bike, most people would get it wrong, because what you have in your mind versus what it really is are two different things. And so when you go do that research, you know, and just like, you know, if you're doing a street scene, if you go look at a street and you're like, oh, wow, look at where that crack's coming from, or look at these pipes coming out, you know, it's those little small details that people miss that really will make or, you know, create that belief that it is a real thing. Or, you know, if you've ever
Right.
seen books where it's like, oh, I thought that was a real place. And it's like, gotcha.
Yeah, that's a big ass key. No, that's a diorama. Uh,
Oh, man. Heck
but
yeah.
yeah, I totally agree with that. And yeah, reference obviously is a key, right? It's going to help you along. And also, like, I could not draw the bike. I could put two wheels and maybe a frame, but my frame would probably be backwards. I don't know where the chain really goes, right? So yeah, reference is one of the, you know, especially for beginners, right? That have only made a few, like, just look at your reference, make sure it makes sense, because you may have it backwards in your head just because I don't know, right?
Right,
Reference is
right.
good.
Yeah, I mean, you know, even like with the terrains and rock dioramas and stuff, there's so many types of rocks made out of so many types of minerals, you know, or, you know, whether it's sediment, you know, that is stacked up over, you know, hundreds to thousands of years, millions of years, you know. It's just one of those things that, you know, if you're building something that has wind erosion versus water erosion, if you're putting something that has wind erosion in a water erosion place, again, your brain is going to have that something's off, you know.
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah.
like I said, without that that reference, you'll miss that mark, you know. So,
Dude, you could tell you put a lot of research into your rocks, Mr. Geologist. That's awesome, though. That's how you know you deep dive into reference, and that's how you are killing it with these terrain pieces because you know your stuff, right? Those two details that you just described, a lot of people may not think about those until you just said it, but those make absolutely sense, right? Wind blown versus water eroded, whatever,
mhm,
is going to make a big difference. One thing
very,
I noticed that you were doing with your rocks is actually you were talking about sediment and rocks over so many millions of years. You see those layers, right? You actually add in those layer details of the colors, which I thought
mhm,
was super epic, right? You know that you're paying attention to all those small details, and
thanks.
that's amazing.
And it's cool too because if you're doing the stacking method with your foam, of course you have that line. You know, it's like it's one of those things you'll never be able to get rid of those lines, no matter how well you glue it down. They'll always be there.
Right.
But there's things that you can do again to trick the brain. Like for instance, with those lines being so thin, right? If I do indentions that are also running horizontal, you know, those create heavier shadows, and so your mind will focus on those more than they'll focus on the small thinner lines that the stacks are made out of. You know, so not only is it like a reference part, but you're also disguising, you know, your lines that you just can't get rid of. So it's like a nice kind of balance between the two.
Yeah,
But yeah.
that's a great thought too, because I didn't think about that. You're hiding your seams, right?
Mhm. Yep.
Um, cool. So that's your past, kind of what you are doing today. I never really asked you this, Ron. I don't know if you want to answer here. Do you do dioramas full time?
Yeah, for the most part. I mean, I do graphic design work. I'm more freelance with that, you know, rather than with the dioramas. It's like a wheel, you know.
Okay.
It doesn't stop. So,
That's all.
uh,
I'm always seeing you putting out awesome work, and they're big pieces. Not like, man, where does he get the time to do that? Makes perfect sense.
yes, yeah. I used to be a bartender, and you know, it was just one of those things that you know, I started getting, you know, 3, 4 commissions a month. And so it was like, I'm spending, you know, like, and like I said, if you think about it like this, when you work for another place, you're making them money, right? And you're replaceable. It's one of those things that if you get sick, unfortunately, you know, that's just how that wheel turns. And
Yeah.
so when you jump out of that cog, it continues to spin, you know. And so um, hopefully with this, you know, it'll be something where I can, you know, either create somewhat of a family business doing it, or I'll have something to leave for my kids as far as like, you know, compared to a job, if they don't have benefits or, you know, some type of exit strategy for that, if anything ever happens to you, you know, it's like, but with this, you know, so I was like, why am I spending all my time working for this place again when I'm replaceable, when I could be spending time working on my own business, you know, and build that up. So literally, I just started you know, going from working 6 days a week, you know, and doing, you know, my free day, I would always do like diorama and stuff. And so I'm like, all right, let me do 5 days and then 2 days of diorama work. And so literally I just kind of, you know, took the bartending down and pushed the dioramas up. And then eventually I was like, I'm at, so, you know,
Nice, dude. And you definitely got the skill to do it, and that's awesome. You're one of the standout artists, like I keep saying. And hopefully, I'm not tooting your horn too hard here, but you deserve it.
I
But
appreciate
cool. Thanks for answering that one. And so I'm running through some interview questions, so they may be kind of odd.
it.
But
Okay.
we talked about your background. We talked
Mhm.
about what you're doing now. Um, so in the next couple of years, I know that's kind of far out, but what's the plans for Lawless Studios? How are you taking over the diorama game?
I'm trying to keep up with the rest of you guys. Let's see. As far as in the future, I definitely want to have a solid website. Um, what is it? You know, like I said, just continuing to increase the quality. You know, um, what else? I would also, you know, like I said, this might be like you said, 5, 6 years down the line, but eventually, I would like to start a DioCon, whether it's in North Carolina, wherever it may be, hopefully it'll be centralized wherever there's a lot of diorama artists, and then we'll all flock to it. But literally, and they can sell action figures or comics there too, but the focus will be with the dioramas, and I think that would be a real good place for us to all meet each other, keep that osmosis going.
Yeah.
So there's some things in the works, but nothing too crazy.
That would be dope, and I would definitely I would definitely have a booth there, or try to have a booth there, as long as I got approved
You got to
by
be there.
Lawless Studios. That's awesome. That'd be epic. And I think a lot of people that are hearing it or will hear it in the future will be anticipating that, or at least waiting for that to come around.
Yeah.
Got some fellow friends here coming in. Vasco Toys, what's up, man? There he goes. Already committing to DioCon.
Right.
Actually, that seems very much kind of like DesignerCon theme, right? DesignerCon. I don't know if you've ever been to DesignerCon. I'm going for my first time this year with 796 Studios and the Enablers, but it's kind of like that, right? It's all these people from the industry that have either part-time gigs doing their own thing, or people with miniatures that come to DesignerCon and have their booth. So it's going to be exciting to go and see all these, like, I don't want to say aftermarket, but like third-party and startups and all these, smaller independent, I guess that's the word, independent or indie companies, doing their thing. I think that's going to be dope.
Yeah. And honestly, now's the time to do it. I mean, look at all these third-party companies that are putting out figures that are competing with Hasbro, to the some of the import companies. I mean, it's an amazing time, man. I mean, even just the fact that, and I know you, like I said, you have a better setup than mine, but just imagining back when I was doing game art design to now, to where I can literally design something in that same 3D program, and I can literally just go right next to my computer and print it out. Like, that's the most amazing thing, that I've ever experienced. So I would say, anybody that's out there aspiring to be a customizer, whether you want to make action figures or design them in 3D, the potential and the capabilities are there for you to do it. You just have to do it, So that's definitely a cool time to be alive.
Yeah, and I'll add to that, because like you can now, especially like with 3D printers and other technologies, you can have an idea, and then if those tools within grasp, or you go to one of these maker shops that may be in your area, you can take that, within a few days, have that thought into something tangible that you can touch. I agree with you. It's an amazing time to be, a crafter, a maker, a diorama guy, whatever you want to call it, because you're able to get those thoughts out in real time and see them.
Yes. It's super cool, man. But yeah, and even with the and where were you saying that DesignerCon was going to be at?
Anaheim, California.
Anaheim, okay. Yeah, that's actually really interesting.
November 12th through the 14th. It's 3 days. It's right next to Disneyland. So like once we're done with that, we're gonna go play at Disneyland.
Yeah, that's gonna be awesome, man. Heck yeah. Yeah, so hopefully we can get something like that. Like I said, whether it's in South Carolina, North Carolina, it doesn't matter to me. It would just be awesome to, or like you said, if a couple of us could get some booths at a even just a regular Comic-Con type of event, and to kind of like get our foot in the door to where it's like, hey, we have a couple people wanting to get booths going, and really just kind of get our craft out there, because a lot of people don't know about dioramas. Like, I know a lot of creators, you'll be like, oh yeah, I make dioramas, and people are like, what do you mean? Or you go to show them a picture and you're like, oh, that's cool drawing, and you're like, it's not drawing. It's tangible. It's for real. Like, it's for real thing. But yeah,
I did my first table at a con a few weeks ago here in North Charleston. It was an incredible con, and most of what's there is some action figures, but mostly like anime pins, people drawing posters, prints. There was nothing diorama related. So when people walked by, I was either scoffed at or they stopped and was like really interested because they'd never seen anything like that. And I was like, I assure you, I did not create any of this. Like, this is not, well, I created the stuff, but not the idea of doing this. And people were just so fascinated. They'd never seen it, like you're saying. So like, I was like, I must be like in the community heavy because I see dioramas all day, every day on my feeds. I'm sure you do too.
Yeah.
But like, people walk around every day don't realize this craft's out there. So
Mhm.
I would love to be able to do something like that. More expandable. So that's definitely a dope idea.
Heck yeah.
There were some comments here. Oh yeah, Queen or Geek. There we go. Texas, north of Dallas. Queen. Okay, they're talking about Vasco. Oh, he wants Lawless to teach some workshops. There we go.
Oh, nice. Yeah, like I said, I'm definitely brainstorming on it. We'll put it at that for sure.
Awesome. And you got some stumps.
Yeah. Like I said, I had some little examples over here on the side. And another thing, like I said, forward to as well is I want to get this diorama association started. It got held up a little bit with the birth of my daughter. Like I said, there's just so much going on. But yeah, I have a couple guys that I'm scouting out to where, like I said, I want to create a page that's similar to Diostructure. If anybody in this chat is on Diostructure, that it's a lot of like work in progress shots. But the page that I want to create is something where you have like not certified, but like you have sellers that have a great background, good customer service, and ready to go projects on that page. So literally, like as you would scroll down it, you would see like, oh, Lawless is selling, trees. And like I said, they're ready to go and everything. It's not something where they have to worry about, because I know a lot of people, especially new dio artists, they'll take pre-orders, and that's the worst. I'm not going to say the worst, but if you have a bad work ethic, that's the worst thing you can do, because you'll get overwhelmed and you'll wind up either just disappearing or, or like I say, you'll fly with it. But yeah, I've seen that happen all too often. So I definitely want to make sure that, you know, regulars that we all have or future clients, I want them to feel like, man, go to this specific page. So then that way you can really get, good work from good artists, and you're not going to get screwed over. So, definitely be excited for that as well, coming up, hopefully within the first part of 2022. And like I said, you're on my list too, so we got to talk about that
This
later.
is the good list?
Yeah, that's the good list.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, that's interesting. I've actually heard you and Phoenix, I'm sorry, I forget his name. Brent? Yeah, talk about it. He does great work, by the way. His sci-fi dioramas with all the details are amazing. But I remember like thinking a trusted site where people can come to buy these things is much needed because of all the happenings that have happened, as far as like pre-orders and stuff. There's, we are very familiar with a lot of those that have happened to people. It's unfortunate.
It is, yeah.
And this brings up a great topic. Maybe we don't talk about, but me and Mario talk quite a bit. We call it like a date night where we just like brainstorm crazy shit that never happens. So we talked about like, dio artist rankings, backstage we were talking about, skill sets, experience and stuff like that. It'd be cool to be able to, present that in a way that's not offensive to anybody, but helps a potential client pick out, their artist, right? Because, they can choose anybody, but they may want a particular style or, experience level. I don't know how that would be accomplishable, but it'd be something maybe.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's what I was thinking, like with the Facebook page, is that what was it? It's a good way for us to all kind of keep ourselves, accountable. And then also, like I said, where we won't even have to worry about the pre-order thing. Like literally you could just scroll down that list and be like, and like you said, it's not to be offensive to new diorama artists or, even somebody that's been doing it for 5 years that might not be on the diorama association, but like I said, I think, how it's built up now to where it's like guys like me, you, Vasco, 796, to where it's just like a community of like this osmosis. I see how you guys interact with your clients. Also, most of us are usually taking commissions, so nobody's really doing like ready-made things all the time. So that's why I figured with the Dio Association, even if we had 5 to 10 guys on there, everybody putting up work for sale at like, different parts in the week. So it's not like we're stepping on each other's toes or, and we all have different styles. So it's like, I think that would be really interesting.
Yeah, and I think the no competition thing is great to point out, especially with style, because if someone comes to you and they're like, hey, I saw such and such make this kind of diorama and I really love how they did it. I mean, honestly, that's not my style. I can't reproduce that. If you want something like that, you're gonna have to go to that artist, right? So I think this becomes very valuable, and also, you know, it creates that no competition, right? Because it presents everybody kind of on the same playing field. Everybody's able to see work side by side, and someone
Right.
can come pick out what directly, you know, they're looking for, right? Because something you build or I build may not appeal to someone that, you know, builds for 796 or Vasco, or the other way around. Excuse me. So I think it's a great idea.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you.
And Mario, I think our relationship is strengthening just because we fail at all the things we talk about. Now I gotta have a date night and apologize to him. Maybe I'll do it publicly.
And definitely caught that 796 episode. That was awesome, man. Like I said, good insight, and yeah, man.
Yeah. Yeah. Star Marvel, you just made that recent building with all the graffiti. I think that was dope, man. Keep going.
Heck yeah. Yeah, definitely don't stop, man. Because literally every time you're working on a dio, you're gonna learn something new, you know. And what was that one Disney movie? Dang it. But the whole point of the movie was don't let failure, you know, mess you up. Like failure is a good thing, because every time you fail, not saying every time you fail, a person could fail and not learn a lesson, but it's only because they're not looking to see what they could have learned from it, you know. But usually when you fail, it presents itself with an answer, or you know, a way to fix it next time. Also, you have the Bob Ross method, you know, where they're happy mistakes. Like, let's just say you're doing craters and you know, you feel like you messed one up. You know, it's like you can still kind of tinker with that and make it into, you know, what it was maybe supposed to be and not what you thought it was going to. You know, so there's different ways to do it. And that, like I said, that's why I try to push the whole idea of like, don't, like I said, don't let failure scare you or make you stop or trash a diorama. Because like I said, normally there's going to be a way to fix it, you know? So just keep pushing for sure.
Yeah, nobody has every answer. No one builds the same. Also, everything's been done before. It may not be done in this scale. It's been done in another scale. So there's all this stuff out there to go learn from people. You know, obviously Lawless is there to teach you some things. He is the tree master. I'm hoping we can talk about this large log here, or tree trunk. But dude, that is epic. First of all, that's XPS foam.
Yes. Yeah. This one is 2 pieces of the 2-inch foam. So yeah, so like I said, if I was to flip this upside down, and this is a good example of what I was talking about earlier, as far as you know, there's 2 seams going on here, right? There's, well, so yeah, so you have a seam running here, and you know, of course, one on the back. But because the indentation here is so deep, like I said, you can't even see the seam.
No, I don't see it at all.
Something that happens with your mind where it's like the one that creates the most shadows, you know, it's like it just kind of cancels out the other one. And we have these vertical lines running up and down from the wire brush, and then the pin marks that really, like I said, it just kind of makes it disappear, which is pretty neat.
Wow. And that's pretty much a 360 piece, except for the bottom, right? You never see the bottom, but like the top is sculpted.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That's dope.
Well, thanks. Yeah, and you know, even, you know, like I guess it's not really on topic, but I mean it is, but it's not. But basically, lately I've been trying to figure out the line between modular and static. You know, it's like with your trees, right? Like, I mean, this isn't a good base to put it on, but like, you know, I could put this on here, and there's going to be that seam on the bottom. It's not like a natural transition. And depending on how you put the camera, you might even be able to see some light shining through there.
Yep.
Versus if I was to, you know, implanted this into the base of the diorama. So some of those things, you know, now if the client wants it, you know, and they need it to be modular for, you know, space or storage, that's fine. But it just, for some reason in my like in my head, it bothers me where I'm just like, oh, like those, you know, little separations from reality, like, because, you know, we all know that most grass builds up, you know, whether it's uh, tree, not foliage, but like, you know, pine straws or whatever it may be,
Right.
that's lifted towards the base of the tree. So yeah, it definitely has a lot of engineering slash, you know, functionality aspects to it. That is fun to experiment with, but it's also, you know, it kind of makes me think of like action figure creators, you know, when they're like, you know, those fine lines between, do we go with the sculpt or do we go with the articulation? Where do we cut that up at, you know?
Right.
And of course you're not going to make everybody happy, but trying to find that happy medium of like, you know, does it need to be in set or not, or, you know, yeah.
Yeah, I got the feeling your happiness level with your clients is probably mostly on the really extremely happy side. So I don't think you have anything to worry about. Because most people probably won't even think of that idea, right? You know, not the idea, but the thought of, you know, where the tree meets the ground. And, you know, unfortunately, most of the dioramas that get photographed are blurred out in the background most of the time, right? It's
That's
only
true.
the shots that you're thinking about, like the true shots, where you got the foreground, the middle ground, and the background, and you're
Mhm.
thinking about it, you know, holistically. And I think that's what takes your pieces to the next level, though, because you're thinking
Right.
about all those details, right? You're almost at movie sets, right, in
I would
1/12 scale.
I would like
So,
to be for sure.
yeah,
Well, even,
yeah,
you know, I don't know when the last time you went to the zoo was, but man, I'm telling you, there's so many like large scale diorama things that, you know, some of them they're so well blended in. You're like, I thought that was just a big rock that was either already here or that they moved here, and it's just a facade for the you know, the enclosure or whatever animal that
right,
it is. Yeah. So you know, anybody that makes dioramas, you don't always have to stick to dioramas. You know, I mean, now if you want a business in the action figure industry, then I would say go for it. But dioramas literally could just be a springboard into, like you said, movie sets, designing for zoos or
zoos,
what type of environments.
right.
Like I said, that would be fun. Where you're like, and that's like lasting, you know. It's like the zoo's been there for 20 years and my stuff is still there.
Dude, this piece, oh my God, what an amazing looking piece. So dramatic. Yeah, love. That's all I can say when I look at this piece.
Thanks.
Amazing.
And this one too, it was all based on the, like I said, before I started with any detail, it started with the silhouette of the back, you know. Um, and then, like I said, once you have the silhouette locked in, I think you're good to go for all the details and stuff. Somebody was saying it looks like Pride Rock,
I could see that.
but yeah, I was like, if they come out with good Lion King figures, I'm gonna do a Pride Rock, that's for sure. And I'm gonna
Dude, you
get,
say that, but like Disney's getting into like Super 7's doing Disney now. They may be more animated, but I think they could fit on here quite well.
that would be
So
awesome. I would
yeah, it
totally
would.
give it.
So I think it would probably happen. McFarlane's making Disney toys now. I mean,
Oh yeah, that's right. I did see Buzz Lightyear at Target a couple weeks ago.
actually, I got
Um,
him somewhere around.
oh, dude.
Yeah, I never opened them. The Mirrorverse.
Oh yeah.
It's a cool looking figure. I'm a Buzz Lightyear fan.
Oh yeah. All day.
So here's a question for you.
What you
We've
got?
been talking about these builds. This one in particular, how much time do you think you have invested in this piece?
The interesting thing with like the past couple pieces that I've shown you, these are more like freestyle pieces. So normally, you know, and like I said, it might be a OCD thing, but there's a lot of like planning and, you know, like I don't know if you do that too, but like it's like I'll do something and I literally will like sit back and just kind of like look at it and think on it, you know, or like you could even take a picture of it. And I have a note phone and then I also have a tablet where I can like draw on it to be like, okay, what would it look like if I did this? Or, you know, just trying out different things. Or maybe I just need to walk away for a little bit and just ponder on that, you know? And yeah, so, but these pieces were just literally like, I feel like this should be there and that should be doing that, you know? And so literally I was just like kind of freestyling with it. So I would say like even this one, was maybe like a week's worth of work mixed in with like, because I have a commission that I'm finishing, and that one requires a lot of thought. So whenever I need a break from that one, I'll jump on one of my freestyle pieces and just kind of like be thoughtless in it, you know? Like, I mean, I'm thinking, but it's like, it's not as much pressure, you know, especially when you're doing architecture. Everything has to line up, you know, and it's like kind of stressful. And you know, you're more exact and you're tense trying to measure things out and this and that. But when you're doing terrains, you can just kind of like flow with it and just kind of do what you feel rather than, you know, whatever it may be. So, yeah.
Well, so that's a topic of discussion that gets asked quite often is like when you get in those kind of rut, may be the bad word, but getting those kind of mindsets, like what do you do to overcome them? And it sounds like you're moving on to another piece where you can move a little more freely and then come back to that piece when you're feeling in it. That's a great, especially for you beginner guys. You don't have to constantly go all in. Take a break, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, even when I used to draw a lot, you know, like you need to walk away and get some fresh eyes, you know. And I would have friends that, you know, it's like, no, you know, I got to do this, you know, and it's like you wind up making more mistakes or, you know, because you're so focused in on it that you're missing, you know, the bigger picture. So like I said, when you walk away from it or put it over there across the room, you know, turn it one way and walk by it, you know, like I said, look at it, post some figures on it. And like I said, I'll move it around again and just kind of, again, looking for those like silhouettes and stuff. And again, definitely working on multiple projects at the same time. People would say, yeah, but then you're not getting a whole project done. But again, if that's what's keeping the create, and that could just be for me. Like some people be like, you know, I just like working on one piece at a time. But for me, like I said, it's something, you know, again, because, you know, like if I'm making a rock piece like this, it's in my mind, you know. And so say I'm watching TV with my girls, you know, or I'm out and I see a picture or something that I'm like, that's the missing piece that I needed, you know. And had I stayed focused in, I would have had it too far along to the point that I couldn't have made it with the reference that I had just witnessed or seen, you know. So yeah, so sometimes, like I said, just kind of taking that step back and really just thinking about it will help you out for sure.
So you seem to work on pretty large pieces. You don't have small pieces by no means. I may have one of your smallest pieces I've ever seen, but
I just can't help it. But yeah, it's the problem I have. Because I'll even be like, okay, taking price into consideration, don't go crazy, and then it's like, and then this pops up. I'm like, damn it, like, So yeah, it keeps happening. Unfortunately, that's why I'm thinking for myself. I need to be doing movie sets, or you know what I'm saying? It needs to be on large scale because that's the way I keep thinking about it. Where I'm like, because if it's too small, then when you're photographing it, you know, you're like, if that just went out a little bit further, or you know, that's why I like even figure out my
I was gonna say, even if like you didn't build the sets, like I could see a movie piece based off this piece, right? You're building proposed models for movie sets because this is epic, dude. This stonework, I mean, it's very sci-fi, fascinating, yet it could be real world. Like, it's a bunch of different applications. Oh, yeah, look at that. Jeez. So dope.
But
You
yeah,
need to get the monolith. When the monolith comes out, who's putting that out? Super 7? Dude, put that monolith on here, dude. There you go. Space
that would be.
Odyssey.
And dang, I forgot who gave me this idea. But you know, I used to do the paper backboards that they had, or not backboards, but they're like the paper sheets that they have at like Walgreens, Walmart, where they're like 2.5 by, I don't know, by
They're not
3.
big.
Yeah, they're just not. And like I said, now if you're doing a close in, you know, contained shot, but again, my stuff, I just keep seeing these like kind of like wide landscape, you know, type shots. And yeah, so I mean, even this background here, this is 4 feet wide and it's still not big enough. Um, so, but then, you know, and you know this as well, but as far as shipping, you know, it's like, how do you ship something this big without cutting it down? But if you cut it down, even if you put magnets in it, it's going to create those little fine lines that will create shadows, you know?
Yep.
But yeah.
Actually, that's a question that Vasco brought up. I don't know if you saw it or if it just your ears were tingling, but he asked, with the non-modular pieces, is shipping ever a problem?
What I've been trying to do with the non-modular pieces is I just make sure it fits in the box first. Like, so I just automatically know if I'm going for a 24 by 18 by 18 box. I know it needs to hit about 17 inches, you know, both ways. And then I have that 20. Usually I go an inch shorter than what it's supposed to be, like whatever the box size is. But you know, if it is something that's a lot bigger, then you got to figure out how to cut it up. But lately, I've been digging the ones where I can just put it in the box, just, you know, and it's ready to go.
Yeah, makes sense.
But yeah, like this one, for instance, it'll just right in there. And what's cool is, like, technically, once I get finished with this little bog slash swamp piece, I mean, technically, you could put this other piece right behind it.
Oh,
continuation.
look at that. Who are you trying to pitch that to? Is somebody in the audience you're trying to sell this to, or is it already sold?
Of course not. No, it will be up for sale pretty soon.
Dude, that's so dope.
Stay tuned. Thanks. But yeah, and that's one thing I love doing too, is like layering your pieces, because, you know, and like I said, the ACBA guys, I don't do, you know, I admire those guys for all the cutouts, and like I said, the nice clear cut contained pieces. But like I said, I just love those kind of open landscapes. But yeah, so that's actually, hold on, wait, let me show you this second.
So while he's going to get that, guys, I am going to pull up his Instagram. And once we get through this, we're going to dive into his Instagram for a second and look at some of his shots and some other previous work. Oh man, I came back. That is amazing. Look at that piece.
I just made it right now. But yeah, and so like this is another freestyle piece where I didn't invest a lot of thought. Like I said, my thought is like I said, I love those type of rocks, especially like this one here, where they're in almost every like comic or movie where, you know, you got somebody standing in a very like stoic, where they're like looking out into the vastness of, you know, of the field or whatever it is. So yeah, so this one I was like, you know, I want something that has a bunch of, you know, diagonal angles, you know, for people to be hitting those stoic scenes. And so literally, like I said, this was like the first one. And then I'm like, I want more, you know, like I want to see more like angled pieces instead of like too much straight stuff. And so literally in certain spots, you know, I literally just tack some skewers in there, you know, and I'm like, I know I want that to be there. How I'm going to build up to it, I'm not really sure yet, but I know that I want it like that. And so, you know, and as I kept going around the piece, even this little area right here, this wasn't even supposed to be there at first. But again, for some reason in my head, I just, you know, I'm like, it just doesn't feel as balanced, you know. And then with this, it's kind of cool too, because, you know, you're kind of, now you have a cropped contained scene. Now all you need is the background. But yeah.
Wow.
Idea. But yeah, so these have been some of the funnest to work on, these freestyle ones.
Yeah, I love the rock, right? So you have, you know, and it all looks natural together, but you got different textures on the rocks, right? Especially on like the rock side versus like kind of your boulders versus some of the slate stuff there at the top. That's all real cool.
Thanks. Oh, wait. Sorry, the camera's backwards, but every time like I need to go further this way, I'm going that way. And yeah. So
and this is a full 360 piece.
Yeah. And this one, normally I do like square, because the majority of my clientele at first was displayers. You know, it wasn't so much the photography guys. So a lot of my work lately has been more focused on the photography aspect. And if you want to put it up on your shelf, that's fine too, or in your display room in the middle of the room, that would be awesome. So, you know, I'm trying to think of like the type of people where, you know, they're like, come in and check out my action figure room, you know, and then they see, you know, something like this sitting there, and it's like it's a great conversation starter. You know,
Right.
I want you to break it down and put it in the closet. I want you to keep it up. And so, you know, in this way, you can't break it down. I made it to where you can't.
Dude, the back of this is epic too.
Right? And you got a nice little ledge under here where you can have some figures crawling. And like I said, this type of thing here is kind of, like I said, going back to that kid, you know, vibe where you know, you want to, like, maybe you're out in the woods or something, and there's like a cool little a route that has like a little underpass, you know, and you put your action figures in there. That kind of goes back to that, where, you know, I mean, there could be a mission where Snake Eyes or whomever is crawling under there about to attack somebody up there. So it's like little scenarios that you try to create for the characters to do, instead of, again, because again, nothing's wrong with having them standing there, but for the photography stuff, you know, let's make
Well,
them do
and
something.
I'm a collector of the Amber line, as well as those Mattel Jurassic Park figures. And dude, a lot of those will look epic on here as well, dude.
That's true. That's true. Thank you. I definitely appreciate that. But yeah, definitely some fun stuff.
That's
But
killer.
you know, even with the 360 pieces, it's like it sucks because then that increases the price. But it's like, you know, there's some dioramas that just need it. You know, not saying you couldn't just do it this way, you know, but if the space is on the back to do it, it's like, why would you just leave it blank, you know?
Right. That's almost a museum piece, dude. Like that should be at a museum. Hey, you want to jump into your Instagram? You cool with sharing that?
Yeah, definitely. Let's do
Cool. All right, guys, let's jump into Instagram. So we'll do Instagram probably for about 20, 30 minutes. We'll see where it goes. And then we'll talk about ID questions, and then we'll get to the giveaway.
it. Okay.
All right. So share screen here. That's a weird
And if
feedback.
my answers wind up being too long, drawn out, or anything, don't mind cutting me off or whatever.
Oh no, this is your show tonight, so you go as long as you want. All right. Can you you can see this?
Yeah.
Awesome. Actually, what I'm gonna do is move. There we go.
There we go. Yeah.
All right. So here's some of the recent work you were showing us. You were skeletonizing. Dude, when I saw this one, I was like, oh, is that an elephant graveyard? Either way, it's gonna look dope.
Yeah.
But when you showed me today, it made a lot more sense.
Yes. Yeah. That's funny. And like I said, now you're gonna put an elephant graveyard in my head and see what happens.
Dude, you may have to do another Lion King movie. There's a lot of Lion King themed stuff.
Yeah, that's true. Very true.
And one of the things too is I love your, I don't know what you're using to take your pictures, but you know, you were talking about the silhouettes and your dioramas and action figures and taking pictures with them and background, and you kill it, dude. Your photos that go along with your builds are awesome too.
Thanks. Yeah, and that piece right there, I think I have it in one of the pictures on there, but one of my other clients actually gave me that idea. He was looking for something like a moon, basically made out of foam. And then I remembered they have those lights that are like 15 bucks on Amazon that are, shaped like a moon, and it has all the textures and stuff.
And lights up.
Yeah, so I was like, why not just, because it's a ball, I mean, I think they sell half shape ones too. But since it's a ball, I was like, you just cut out a circle, insert the moon in the back, and you got a nice little backdrop.
Yeah, hella dope. And so what's funny is, we're both in the South. I was actually at a park today where it was low tide, and I saw this, and I was seeing that today with fiddler crabs. And dude, honestly, I could not distinguish real or fake from this picture. That's how good it is.
Thanks.
This is awesome.
Thank you. Yeah,
like I said, shoreline, swamps.
Yes, man. Oh, and that's the interesting thing too, as far as just discovery and you messing up and whatnot. But and I think 796 touched on this a little bit, but the foam that we're using, the XPS foam, is breathable. It's porous, and so when you use certain types of water effect, it just naturally, for some reason, it'll bring air into it and it'll create little bubbles. So if you don't seal it properly, like with plaster and, you know, Sculptamold, those types of things, then like I said, you'll get those little bubbles. And so for the longest, I don't even know why I didn't think about it, but for the longest time, I was like, I want to put different size rocks inside of the water, you know, and if you put foam rocks in the water, again, it's going to create those bubbles. So lately I've been trying to do clay, you know, and so you make your different stones that'll be in the water out of clay. And then that way you can glue those in there. And yeah, so even like with the fiddler tabs, you know, you could have, shoot, I'm sure if you had, you know, if you made some little small, like whether it be fish or crabs or turtles, I'm sure you could put those in the bottom of the water, which would be pretty neat to make it look like they're swimming around and stuff in there.
That'd be dope. And you're bringing a different element to the diorama game that, you know, a lot of people might be thinking about is sculpting your own accessories.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. Yeah, that's the top down. And even that idea, like I said, that was just a random idea where I was like, I just want to, because I haven't really seen anybody tackle a swamp before. I mean, I've seen like in ACBA where it's kind of like those hashtags, no dio needed or no dio, no problem.
Yeah.
Where I've seen people use like different elements to kind of create a swamp, but I've never seen like a legit, you know, like full swamp dio.
No, you're the only one mad enough to do that.
I am.
Here's what you were talking about earlier with the foreground, background. That's awesome that you're thinking about all those components.
Yep. I know, and I hate I didn't do that with this piece. As far as, you know, like with the rocks, and I could have totally seen some of that.
Which piece were you talking about? Dude,
yeah.
he pulled out another we ain't seen. Look at that, guys.
Yeah. And this is like the third 360 piece. But like I said,
another personal piece, or is that a commission?
This one actually just sold. So it'll be going out pretty soon. So I'll put up some product shots and stuff once I get finished with it. But yeah. And I always like to, you know, like the picture you're showing there, I always like to show kind of like before and then, you know, the progress through and through.
How am I not
more so get across the time that it takes, you know? And like I said, sure, there's things that you get faster at, you know? But yeah, I feel like some people do think that it's like, you know, if they look at your prices or whatever, they're like, I don't understand why. And it's like, well, I mean, like I said, it takes a long time and this carpal tunnel sucks.
Yeah, dude, I can only imagine. We're going to be using a computer for a lifetime, right? We're like our previous generation. We're going to be having hand cramps the rest of our life, probably.
Definitely. Yeah, dude, that was fun. And, you know, I try to, if you can photograph it without an action figure in there, which of course is the point of, you know, why we're collecting all that stuff. But I feel like if you can make it look good without an action figure, I mean, the action figure is just the icing on the cake, you know?
Right. Well, I like how it takes, you know, the action figure obviously is the single point, the focus here. But when you take it out, you focus on the terrain. You start thinking about those landscape shots, like those outdoor shots, right? And you're capturing this. That's awesome.
Thanks.
And not only terrain, you've been putting out, you know, and you put out in the past some of these structural architectural type things. This is dope.
Yeah. Like I had what was it, like two or three Japanese projects that I had done. And, you know, because like I said, a lot of our work, it revolves kind of like around a facade, like where it's not real in the back. You know, we just need to make it look as real as possible in the front to kind of fool the eye.
Yeah.
But with the Japanese pieces, I was like, you know, it's the shape of the roof. It's imperative to kind of get that Japanese look, you know? And I'm like, if I don't understand what's happening on the inside, how can I even create a facade of like what that would look like, you know? And so I wound up watching like almost an hour and a half documentary on Japanese architecture. And it was one of those things that it's like, I would have never probably watched that normally, but I learned, you know, a lot about the Japanese culture, why, you know, the pagoda types of buildings are built the way they are. And you know, I'm talking about the pagodas, like where they have the floors stacked on top of each other, and they have the cool kind of fanned out roofs and stuff like that.
Right.
And all that is from, you know, from Japanese heritage using. I forgot if they're. I don't think they're cypress trees. I forgot the type of tree that it is, but it's like these really tall trees, and they keep almost the whole tree, like the stem of the tree, intact. And so that stem is what the whole architecture is built off of on the inside. You know, everything is like kind of like puzzle interlinked and stuff on the inside of that. But yeah, so it's fun things like that where you kind of get to do that research and development and, you know, kind of learn something yourself. And yeah, that's a piece of it.
Yeah, you're right though. And to really create the inside or the 360, you got to know the structural understanding. You can't just like carve it out like there's no structural integrity on the inside. It wouldn't seem right, right?
Or what do you even attach it to? You know, like as far as all the ornamental pieces and
Nice product shot here.
Thanks, I appreciate it.
There's some tests. That's the static grass. Did you buy? Is that real grass behind there, or is that another terrain piece? I can't even tell.
Yeah, I was outside, and yeah.
Wow.
I was like, if you angle that right, I was like, it almost looks like I could do the same yard.
Yeah. Are you using one of those static grass things?
Yes, sir.
I've never messed with those before.
Yeah, the first, you know, because I want to say I got that maybe like a year or two ago, and I feel like I almost electrocuted myself, and so I just kind of I saw electricity arcing, and it has a bunch of like warning signs on it, like use at your own risk, and I was just like, man, I'm just gonna put this down. And so I figured out the part I was missing is you actually have to have like a piece of metal in the diorama itself. Like you have to, whether it's like a pin, there has to be some type of grounding, right? Because it comes like a little extra wire, and so you attach that to the little metal pin that you put in there, and it creates that static charge between the two. And so whenever it drops the little, there's a better filament almost. It's almost like these little filament hairs. It'll stand them up on end, and it, you know, attaches to the glue. So it's pretty neat. I know Chris Sculpting and there's a couple other guys that really make that stuff look good. So I want to advance my skill level up there.
Yeah, this looks good. Really good.
Thanks.
Another product shot. This piece is so dope. Just the way those pieces stand up and the shape of them is just, I don't know, looks so cool.
Thanks. Yeah, I've been because you know when I first started, I was doing they kind of remind me of the gems off of Superman. You know, his hideout, how it has those like crystals that have those points to them. And so a lot of my rocks look like that. And I had a lot of people on Diostructure, and you know, it's just one of those things as the osmosis kind of spreads out, more people start doing those types of things. So with the rocks that you're seeing there, I've been trying to kind of like, you know, just kind of experiment with different rock styles. But yeah, this is one of like the old style there, and this is great for like, you know, filling in background. You can use this for your foreground and stuff like that. But yeah,
so cool. I'm missing some likes in between some. There's some more pictures. There we go. Oh, that Gambit is so sick, isn't it?
Dude, he's definitely gonna be one of the top Mayfex of the year, that's for sure. But yeah, I got that sand piece over here.
Yeah, that sand piece is cool.
And you see, like, you know, that's more of a low angle. And okay, so I forgot to mention, I also used to do, well, I still do it, but do a lot of photography. So I did like weddings, family events and occasions and stuff like that. And most photographers, and like I said, use this with what we do. You know, not you, but like anybody that's watching, use this with what we do. But most people, when they photograph, they kind of, you know, they're just standing up and they'll hit, you know, just it's in this kind of middle zone. nobody ever really goes high and nobody really goes low. Like, so when I used to do the wedding photography, me and Holly, we would be laying on the ground getting great shots. And like I said, most photographers will not do that. They'll just
Right.
like, right, I'll crouch down a little bit. So, that shot that you're looking at right there, that's that low angle. And it really kind of shows off the layers that I was talking about as far as like the unevenness, and hopefully for people that are diorama enthusiasts, that will kind of set them off where they're like, man, normally everything's really flat. And they might not even notice why they like that more than like they like this. Because again, this is like a example here of the flat, these different levels. And it's kind of emulating risers, like those acrylic risers, but we're making it look cool to fit our action figures. But again, I've gotten to the point where I'm like somewhat bored of the levels. And again, even in nature, not everything is going to be flat like that. So there's going to be places that are an incline or a decline or whatever it may be. So yeah, definitely trying to experiment with that more.
That's awesome. Yeah, and definitely could tell you got some photo experience here, especially some of the angles you're getting and your lighting, and the way you got your backdrops lit up, right, makes a big difference.
Very true.
I mean, look how realistic this looks.
I know. I'm definitely loving this. Like I said, it's called poly blend, but it's a grout that they use for tile work. And so technically, I'm pretty sure you could just use water, to seal it down. But I kind of just used the same method with the turf stuff, where I use glue, to attach it. So I just put the glue where I want it, and then sprinkle the stuff, and get it off of the areas you don't want it, and spray it down. And like I said, that seals it up pretty well.
The texture, the granules, they all seem accurate to the scale. So that's perfect. You can just go down the flooring aisle at Home Depot or Lowe's and find this stuff.
Yeah. Or you can order it. I think it's more expensive on Amazon. And what we were talking about earlier, if you try to think of yourself as a musician and you're a rapper, country music artist, or whatever it may be, some of the best artists go back to some of the greats like soul and blues and jazz, and they'll sample things or they'll get inspiration from there. So if we can do the same thing here, because again, we're in like uncharted territory with action figure dioramas. Dioramas have existed for a long time, but they haven't existed in this light, And so if we can take things like train models, or like there's one guy that I follow that, and I mean, there's plenty of them, but one specifically, he makes diorama pieces, but they're not even for action figures. They're just for like, say a tattoo parlor wanted a accurate model of their tattoo shop. He makes that kind of stuff for them. So it's like, if we can pull from people like that into this community to make it fit in scale with 1/12 or 3 3/4 characters, like I said, you'll be tapping into something that hasn't really been tapped into yet.
And so you say that about the buildings. I was saying this, I think, on a live last week or the week before when Adam playing with myself was on. It's like, I want to go through my city. I live in Charleston, South Carolina. It's got some of the oldest, historical buildings, and make them in this scale, or like make a McDonald's in this scale. I want to do things like that. But, it takes time at that scale, and two, kind of need someone to commission that for me to do it and be worth it. But
not saying that it will work, but the best thing you could do is go ahead and just start doing it. Like you said, pick whether it's the Capitol building in South Carolina, or like I said, whatever historical building that you want. And once you start building up that kind of portfolio of these realistic places, I think those commissions would then start to come, because then you have a way to kind of advertise for it, where it's like, look, this is your place right here. This is it.
Take it in there and hand it to them, just drop it on their desk. This Gambit figure is you, Mr. Mayor. this is cool. This is that one you were just showing us off from the other side, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Look at that brickwork.
Thanks, man. The only thing that I really need to get the comprehension of is the grout in between. That's one thing I haven't. Like I said, I've experimented with it, but I feel like the stuff that I was using, I don't know if it wasn't right or. So yeah, so I gotta try out some different products to kind of get that look. But like I said, that's one thing I like about your stuff is the fact that because even grout, like, there's places where the bricks have kind of like maybe the grout has fallen out, and then there's patchwork, and that's one thing I like about your stuff is it looks like lived in, and
that's pretty easy. Or I mean, I am trying to figure out something else too because when I grout, I like the definition with the grout line and the brick. I want there to be some separation. I don't want it to be flat. Right. So a lot of times, especially I'm using spackle after I paint the bricks to get that effect. So I go back and I use either some sort of tool. Mario put me onto this brush. It's like a synthetic wire, not wire, but detailing brush. And I'll go back and just like peg like all over the board. One, it gives me a lot more fine detail in the bricks because you have those little holes, pinholes in the bricks. Mm-hmm. It also pushes that down, and then in some areas, it makes it uneven, so you get that effect. And when you start putting light on it, and then you do your like black washes and washes, it really brings it out. Yeah, but yeah, I like to use just regular spackle. I wish I could find a spackle that kind of shrinks a little bit though, because I want more definition between the grout line and brick line. But you're always experimenting and trying something new. So maybe
yeah, I say actually, and see, I don't even know if because this is spackling too, but this is Drydex. I don't know if you.
That's basically the same, except it turns white when it dries. That's exactly what I'm using. I'll show you what I'm using.
Okay.
I have like tubs of this. I just went to Lowe's and just bought 4 tubs of this big stuff, and this is all I'm using. It works. I wish it shrunk though. I think there's some that shrinks or that used to shrink. It wasn't supposed to, but it does. And I wish I could find that.
Okay. Yeah. The issue I had with mine was because I tried it. I forgot who it was that had said it, but basically it was like what you said, where you paint it first, then you smear your spackling, wherever you need it, and then but mine and like I said, I don't know what I did wrong there, but it would like the red bricks, it would kind of like smear it, and in the lines where the grout would be somewhat pink, almost like it was transitioning that the brick color, So I couldn't figure out how to not do that. And so
all I did was I just seal in between. Once I paint the brick how I want it to be, I do it a darker color because you never get all that spackle off, so it's gonna be a little lighter.
Okay.
But then I seal it with like a matte sealer, and then I put in the grout, whatever we're calling it, spackle. It'll still be some, because I don't do a heavy coat. There'll still be some smearing, but once you start adding all the washes, it just adds to that gritty, grungy effect. So.
Okay. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna have to try that out. What I did last time, and that's why I didn't do it on the project we were just looking at. But literally, I put this stuff on before I even painted the bricks black, right? And so, what was it? Yeah, I put all that stuff on there. Then I went in with a what was it? Almost like a popsicle stick, the equivalent of, and literally I was going in between each brick line and trying to get that little depth that you were talking about.
Yeah.
It took so many passes to do that. And then, I painted that base gray color for grout. And then I went back and painted close to almost every brick. I used, what was it? It was like Lord have mercy. It was like a sponge. You have to get one that doesn't have a lot of porous areas. And so literally you just, put it in your red paint, get most of it off of there, and you just kind of slide it back and forth on the bricks. And a deep enough grout, it won't get inside of the grout, and you just smear it over the top. But it took way too long. And I was like, I'm gonna wind up having to charge a lot for that. Just with the time, and I was like, even muscle memory, this still takes a long time to be, going through each line. And so definitely props on your stuff because man, some good
I've
stuff.
experimented with so many things. Like I try to do a whitewash at the end. I've tried to use the quickie like shoe polish white stuff and then try to rub it off to get the white lines. And it adds a cool effect, but never as good as, you know, the spackle did.
Yeah.
And then, you know, I'm cheating from most people. I'm either using a CNC or a laser to cut my bricks.
So Joe.
That recent one is laser cut, dude, and they're so precise. And I like the scale of them. Like I said, I pretty much went upstairs and measured the bricks that you had, which I'm thinking those were all hand painted now. Which I respect that piece a whole lot more if that's the case. But that's one of the dials that are in my DTOF. I got one from Vasco, and then one from 796, and then one from you and DTOF. But
I definitely,
yeah, but brickwork is like the what we calling it earlier, like your like what is it called? Like, not your entry level, but you know what gets you into diorama. If you can do brickwork, like you know, you're in the right place.
Very true, very true. And you know, especially when you're first starting, it's like because even you know that's the interesting thing about these dioramas is like when you first start, you know, even just doing bricks and just painting them red, you're like, wow, look at how real that looks.
Right.
You know, again, you're not even thinking about like what you were talking about with that wire brush and doing the little stippling things where it creates the you know, little porous textures and stuff. But it's like as you start leveling up, you start noticing those little tiny details that make those just pop. And so, you know, and like I said, even with that being entry level, when somebody does it right, it's one of those things where you're like, that's it right there. That is it.
Yeah.
And so, hold on, quite, you know, like I said, I know this is on me, but like with your bricks on that facade of that building, how did you go about separating them? Like, did you literally, as you were going up the building, you just stack them, or did you put like a popsicle stick or something in there to like keep the distance between them?
So there's two different bricks on this building. There's the front facade, which is going to be different. Those are all just like stacked stone kind of look bricks. So there will not be mortar in between those. Those will all have that stacked look. And then I have the ones that are on the side, which is cut with the laser. So it's just basically burning the lines, I think like just a couple of millimeters deep, enough to put enough spackle in to create that effect.
That's cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's a long progression to get to that point, right? Because even though there's a laser to cut it, you still have to design this thing, right? And all the bricks and the right size and scaling and testing and cutting. But then it's you know came from all those years of hand cutting bricks, right? Understanding like you know when you first start, we're doing the inch by half inch, right? That's great for starting out, but that's not a realistic brick. And it's understanding you know the true scale of a brick based on the architecture, because not every brick is the same. And it just drawing on that knowledge, and then you know getting to you know what I'm doing today, which would probably be different from the next time I do it. You know, it's always learning. But
you know,
I don't know how I want to do that front piece. It's stacked stone. It looks good, but I don't know how I'm going to paint it yet. It's going to be interesting.
Yeah, honestly, yeah. Even without the grout, I don't even think it needs it because it's going to give so many shadows, like with those different types of bricks. You know, it's going to be amazing. But yeah, like the first time where I was doing like loose bricks, you know, and like really trying to be like, okay, let me get the scale right. I remember I went outside and you know, I had some loose bricks out there. And so literally I'm like holding a brick and I'm like, you know, what does this look like in my hand? And so I literally came back inside and I cut out a couple different brick shapes and put, you know, I grabbed an action figure that could, you know, has this kind of hand to it. And so I just put it in their hand and I'm like trying to, you know, like if it looks like this hand, yeah, just trying to get that scaling. Or even, you know, if you're doing steps and you can't, you know, remember how high a normal like just the standard step should be, go outside and go look at how far does the step come up on your ankle, you know, and then you can really, because you know, like when I first started, I was using the inch thick foam, and that's too big, you know, unless it's like an old ancient structure, you know, maybe it would have bricks that or steps that tall, but for the most part, they're going to be like half of that, you know. So yeah, so it's definitely a interesting thing. I think, you know, to be a dio maker, you definitely have to be a tinkerer in a sense. And it's just the figuring it out that really interests me. You know, like I said, I like creating like pieces that I've done before. Nothing's wrong with that. But yeah, it's those where you're like trying something new, where you're like, man, I really wonder, like, what is this gonna, it's gonna work? And yeah, it's fun, man.
Yeah, I keep a set of calipers next to me at all times so that I can translate, fractions or scale to digital, and then, and because with the laser, like I'm using everything that I can cut with a laser. I will cut. Like I was like taking stuff out of the kitchen and engraving stuff. My wife's like, "Where's this stuff going?" And I was like, "I'm practicing," But yeah, I have the stoops I'm working on, and I was like, "Well, half inch isn't going to do it. What is it really?" So, dude, I keep an action figure like all the time for scale.
Yes.
And there's such a variance between like figures, right? Because Figma to Mezco to SHF to Legends.
Mm-hmm.
But I keep a Legend, I think, most of the time on the desk, and that's what because that's almost in the middle of everything between McFarlane and Mezco and SHF. So if it fits, I'm pretty happy with that. And I actually did the same thing. Like I will put like I took War Machine's hand and like put it next to the bricks when I was measuring these out to make sure it made sense.
Yep.
But yeah, that's the equivalent of like old artists putting their thumb up, right? We're making sure everything's in scale, everything measures. You got to.
Yeah, I definitely think in this art form, having an art background definitely helps. It's not gonna, like I said, you can still get to where you're trying to get to, but I think having that will kind of, because it's those little tips and tricks that'll kind of like, help you tackle certain projects and stuff. But yeah, like you said, and the interesting thing is like I feel like most Marvel Legend collectors, I've had a couple that will get an expensive piece, but for the most part, if somebody's really going to spend upwards of like $500 to $1,000 on a Dio, they're not going to be a Marvel. Like they might collect Marvel Legends, but they're going to display Mafex or Figure Arts or Figma or something on there,
Yeah.
But yeah, I definitely try to get in between those two, or specify, if you're taking a commission, just make sure it's like, what are we using here, so I can make sure I use that exact figure.
Right. Speaking of scale, have you ever done anything outside of 1/12 scale?
I've tinkered with the 1/6 scale stuff. I haven't had too many people try to commission something for 3 3/4, but and even with the 1/6 scale, a lot of those collectors are so worried about messing up their figures. Like they don't want to move from like the vanilla pose. And so, that's what this tree was for 1/6 scale collector. Or it could be, just a really large tree for a 1/12 scale. But
unless you're getting these 12 scale or 6 scale legends.
Oh yeah.
These are dope.
What those, yeah. Yeah, I love that line. I wish they would have kept going. All we needed was an Ant-Man at the time. That would have been really awesome. Oh heck yeah, Spider-Man.
There's a whole bunch I wish they could have did because your articulation's great, dude. This is basically retro Spider-Man body.
Yep.
It's not the same buck, but it's all the same articulation.
Mm-hmm. And it's got the Power Rangers, that low ab crunch, and then it's got the diaphragm hinge or ball joint. Yeah, that's awesome, man. I have the Black Panther one too, which is really cool.
Oh, so I'm missing that one and the Hulk, which I think a friend is sending me the Hulk, and I'll have the entire line.
Nice.
I like it whenever like I don't have to go chase figures anymore. Like I completed that line. There's no more of them.
Yeah.
I interrupt you though. You were going to talk. There you go. Setting up a pose.
Oh yeah, but yeah, but basically, yeah, I've tried a couple 1/6 scale pieces, but even those, it's like the figures are so big that you'd have to, the diorama has to be at least 2 feet wide, So yeah, it's tough because I have a couple that I want to make dios for, and it's just like, because like I said, I like getting those low angles. So even on that backboard I was just showing you, there's still all this open space that needs to be filled by a background, and I'm just like, I'm gonna wind up painting a whole wall just as a background, just to put stuff in front of it.
That's funny you bring that up. I have this whole so I have my garage, which I'm never going to open the door again because that's where I'm at, and I have pink foam lining it up so that my mind tricks me into this is a solo room. It's not a garage. It also allows me to push everything up against it, so I have like 2 or 3 feet more space. I thought about doing that though. painting some backgrounds on a couple sides and then moving the photo booth over there. That's a great idea.
Yeah, and I mean, it beats having to because I've tried to set up over on the other side of the room here. I've tried to set up an independent photography area because nothing's worse than having to take things down and put it back up, and it's just like this tedious. And especially if you need to, because a lot of that comes into play too, where even in the building process, I'll take a pink diorama and I'll go put it in front of the photo area just to see, like, what is it, how is this making me feel? What is it going to look like in the future? And so to have to keep breaking that thing down like that is just really frustrating. So so I would like to have, a whole wall. Maybe a L-shaped wall to where you could have like a daytime, nighttime, and then you just kind of turn it, but yeah.
I'm sure since you do a lot of big dioramas, you probably take up a lot of your space, especially when you got multiple builds going on, right?
Yeah. I tried to. They have some pretty good shelves at Walmart, like those plastic kind of. They're for, I'm gonna say like bins or something, but because they're plastic, it's like you could put a painted piece and let it dry on there. And not worried about messing up your floor or tables or whatever. But
it's true.
As you can see, tables all jacked up from paint.
Yeah, where the magic's happening right here. This is it, guys.
Yep.
This is a first-person shooter with Ron.
Right.
Cool. Well, so let's do this. Let's get into some of these Instagram questions. But before we do that, you want to call out Diorama. Diorama will be on Diorama Talk. Second week in November. I don't know if you've seen his post or follow him, but he just got into making some trees, and he's made some really good looking trees. And he's here, bragging about your trees, how well they look.
I appreciate that.
Diorama, if you're not following Lawless, I'll go check him out. And he's always dropping knowledge bombs, especially on his live. So check him out.
Thanks.
All right, let's get into some of these questions. We got quite a few of them, guys, so we'll try to get through them. I think we maybe already answered some, but we'll, maybe he'll answer again for us. Be so generous.
Yes, sir.
Before we do that, let's ask this one question. This is going to come from Marcus Yee, and he asked this like the second episode. We're in 11 now. And I like the question so much, so the audience, we decided to add it into the weekly rotation.
Okay.
The question is, if you could make one diorama, or if there was one diorama that best represents you or your personality / art style, what scene would it be?
Oh man. That's a tough one. Let's see. I don't know. I would probably say some type of mountainous type of creepy, somewhat serene looking terrain. Like similar to some of the stuff that you've seen here, but I don't know. I could also see myself building a whole little town, kind of like what you got going on over there. Like I love the concept of like a little city, it's so neat. So yeah, I don't know if that's a good answer or not, but yeah.
No, that's a great answer. So basically, every time someone buys a piece, they're buying a little bit of Lawless soul in those pieces.
Yeah, I try to make it like I'm making it for myself.
There you go. Now, that's a great way to do it too, because then you guys know that you're buying something that love has been put into, right? That real passion goes into his project.
Yeah, like it won't go out the door unless it's right, or unless I feel like it's complete. Yeah. So yeah.
And yeah, talking about this piece, I kind of wanted to bring it up all night, but just kept getting away from the subject. So one of the things I find challenging with these large pieces, especially one this size, is like you're building basically, I don't know, 3 or 4 different dioramas that all go into one, right? Because you can break them down.
Right.
And what I keep having trouble with is like I'll build, then I have to pull it all back together to make sure the whole scene makes sense, right? From color to style. And I find that very difficult because I have to stop building, pull back together, right? To get this, big picture, step back. And sometimes it is sit on the bench, like it is today, fully assembled for weeks. Why am I looking at something, trying to figure out what I'm going to do next because I may not like what I previously designed. But you got to take those moments, step back, look at the piece entirely from the front to the back, right? And get an idea of, what you want to do.
Very true.
But I thought that was a very good point to make, is step back from it from different angles, right?
Yeah.
No matter how big the piece is or small, like it's the best way to do, even different lighting styles, right? I'll sometimes dip the lights down, bring it up, and I'll get that creative like spark or aha moment. We're like, oh, let's do that.
Yeah. The funny thing too is like for some reason in my mind, and it could be, if you've ever seen any of these like Instagram pictures of like dio builders where they'll have like a paintbrush, like it'll just be their hand and they're like painting a detail. It does not go well for me. It doesn't go like that. Like literally, like you said, if it's a wall, like, and I've tried it, where like I'll have it all set up and I'm just like, you feel like you can't get a good like lean on there. So I'm like, all right, let me disassemble it, take it down. All right, let's put it back. You got to wait for it to dry, put it back up there. So yeah, it's definitely tedious for sure, but fun. But yeah, I always think that's funny when they have the little hand in there. I'm like, you're not painting no details like that.
Oh, that's all facade. That's that's not really how that happens. Man, at least not. I agree with you. Not for me. Like I've got pieces down in my lap at my paint booth, like painting, right? And then I'll bring it back and then look at it and see how it looks.
Yeah. It's definitely, or even if you're doing a wash, because if I put a wash on a wall, then now it's going to drip down to the base, and you don't want all that, So it's yeah. Interesting.
All right. Let's get into these Instagram questions. So we did a poll Thursday or Friday, got a lot of participation. So thank everybody that did that, got their names here. So we'll start out with Random Geek here. His first question is, do you carve your pieces while assembling them or basically make a block form and then carve it up?
Let's see. I mean, I guess it just depends, but usually, just like with the drawing, how you'll kind of put out the basic circles of like where if it's an action or a person in action, it's like you'll get those action lines and poses to kind of get the round out shape. And then I do a lot of disassembling, trying to look for a piece that to kind of give an example with, but actually, well, but basically just imagine your stacks, so it's like you put it together and then you do what you can while it's like that. And that's why in a couple of my lives I've always said, trying to figure out when to glue things and when to leave it, like the way it is for right now, and how much detail can you put in there while if you're holding the stack down versus most of the times, like I've started using skewers. And so that way, they're not so thick that, it'll mess up the foam, but it's just enough to kind of hold that piece in place while you're carving on it. And like I said, even that, as you're working on it, those pieces are like all kind of shifting back and forth like tectonic plates, And so while you're doing that, like if I'm trying to, blend some rock areas and get it totally smooth, if it's shifted one way, but then when I glue it, it shifts back to where there's like some unevenness, it's like that'll mess you up. So it's like trying to figure out that fine line. When do you glue it? And then once it's glued, like for instance, here, like with these little ridges here, once this is glued down, there's not a lot you're going to be able to do to get a razor in there to do any detail. And if you do, you're going to wind up putting indentions that you didn't want or that look too mechanical in a sense. So, it's like trying to figure out, okay, let me finish this totally and then put the texture on there, then glue it, so, and every one of them is different because your levels are always, like I said, sometimes you'll have overlap pieces and it all just kind of depends.
Awesome. I think Random Geek's here.
Awesome.
He's got another one coming in. Is most of your carving done with a knife or a hot wire cutter?
I would say probably like 70% of my work just from when I started to now has been with the blade. And then because the hot wire cutter is cool, but it tends to make your stuff look like glaciers, because it's so smooth. So a lot of that is, I'll kind of get the form down. And then once I have the shapes that I want, I'll go back in with a razor and kind of put in those finer details and stuff.
Okay. Another one from Random Geek. What do you use for your dirt and sand? And you answered this, but We'll get it official here.
Yeah, you can do what is it? Poly blend. You can find it. I want to say they have it at Home Depot and Lowe's, or you can get it on Amazon. But that so far, that's the best that I've seen.
And that comes pre-colored too. You can buy it pre-colored, or you can paint it, right?
Sure can. Yeah, yeah. Like I said, I just recently started to experiment with it with the painting aspect. But yeah, I would more so suggest to get it in the specific color that you want.
All right, here's Mario. Where do you get your inspiration from? And are you a wizard?
I am actually with no. Oh, Mario. But yeah, inspiration, man. Honestly, I would say it comes from wherever you're willing to get it from, you know? Because like literally there could be inspiration in something that, you know, that you're looking at that you wouldn't even think about versus me or you that, you know, might be like, oh man, I could totally see this or that in there, you know. So it comes from being outside to reference pics. I mean, even our osmosis just as a diorama community and how much we kind of build off of each other, you know. Like even when I had first started doing the trees, I don't think by far I was at all the first to start doing trees, but you know, it was one of those things where the guys around me, it was like, you know, if I did something, then somebody takes it up to another level, you know, and then I can kind of take that and be like, huh, I wonder what would happen if you tried, you know, this with it. So it's like so much good osmosis going on that I just a lot of it comes from the community.
Awesome. All right, Vasco Toys. What got you into building dios? I think we covered that, but
yeah, basically, yeah, just when the action figures got to a point that they were covered, you know, like let's just say if they didn't get to where we're at now. I mean, honestly, I'm almost to the point that every nostalgic property that I can remember, from like Ninja Turtles to Gargoyles, you know, everything has kind of been done at this point. You know, whether they can make it better, that's another question. But as far as just having a physical representation of it, it's like we got it now. So
yep.
The only thing we don't have is something to put them on, you know. So that's exactly where that came from, where I'm like, okay, now I need some sets for all my dudes. Because before ACBA and, you know, figuring out that action figures were so good, I was to the point where I was trying to figure out how to customize stuff. Especially, do you remember those blank bodies that Figure Arts came out with?
They're kind of like the V-Toys bodies, right?
Yeah. And so that was right around when there wasn't really any Spider-Man action figures, and he's my favorite. And so literally, I did my best to try to. I did my best to try to make a Spider-Man.
Oh,
and
shit.
So I used the right type of paint, so now it's starting to like yellow and all that type of stuff. But
dope,
thanks. Yeah, it was my first attempt. I tried to seal it, and of course, it's got paint rub going on. But this was the only body at the time where you could get some good Spidey poses, you know?
Right.
So had we not, if we weren't where we're at now, then yeah, I would totally be trying to do this. But what's funny is like in 3D, painting a character was so easy, you know? It's like, you know, you're not touching it. But in real life, all the curves, it's actually really hard to customize figures. So yeah, I don't know if you've tried that before, but man, like trying to get straight lines on something that's curved like that is really difficult.
Yeah, I'd be trying to do like water decals or some shit.
Oh yeah. I might try to do that again, but yeah, fully painting, nope.
All right, we got another one from Vasco here. If you could keep one action figure line from your current collection, which would you choose?
Thanks.
Yeah, I agree with that, dude. They are killing it right now.
Yeah, just all around, you know, like yeah. Because Marvel Legends, like I enjoy those, but you know, again, I'm all about like the subtle, like if you can get a good vanilla pose, and a lot of people take that for granted. Because you know, like stick a figure in somebody's hand that doesn't even collect, they put them in like the goofiest, you know, like kind of doll looking, like almost a Toys R Us. What was it? Say Toys R Us, but that's not it. Toy Story type of pose, you know, where
yeah,
And so yeah, so if you can hit a good vanilla pose and get some subtle like head movement, you know, I mean, you got it, man. So yeah, that's some of my favorite stuff with the Mafex line is just the subtlety that you can get with those figures.
Yeah, and the soft goods just and the effects.
Oh
Like,
yeah,
dude, this Gambit figure, I agree with you. It's going to be probably best figure of the year for me.
yeah,
And just it just keeps me excited about X-Men, Jim Lee X-Men, what I'm calling it, in the Mafex line. It's gonna be so dope.
yeah. I agree.
Uh, um,
And
awesome.
they sell well with Marvel Legends, which is even cooler.
That is true. That is true. Good point. Good point. Not all, but some. No, I'm just kidding. Uh, cool. What's you got any on pre-order? What else are you looking forward to?
Let's see.
Any DC Mafex?
That I can think of. I mean, I wish there's a couple characters. I wish they would make what was it, the Man Bat? I don't know if that's the right name for it, but yeah, it was the dude that has like the bat wings and all that kind of stuff. Killer Croc would be awesome. Who else?
Yeah, no one's really done a super awesome like Killer Croc.
Oh yeah, and as far as like Mafex, if they can make a Nightcrawler, Beast,
Ooh.
some of those guys that can get some good, you know, crouching poses and stuff. Yeah,
I like the Legends Beast though. It does pretty well. But the Nightcrawler, yeah.
The only issue that I have with Marvel Legends is they're just so inconsistent with like the amount of hands. Like that's one thing I love about Mafex and figure arts is like they give you the basics. Like you got the fists, relaxed hands. You need some type of like dynamic, like jumping or like reaching type of hands. So usually if a figure can kind of hit all those, I'm like all in for it because you need, you know, and like with Beast, he's got the one like the book hand, and then he's got, like I said, there's none. I don't even think he has. I think it's just one. So it works, and that's what I was saying too. Like with you know, I have a decent X-Men line with the Marvel Legends. So it's like, you know, you can use your Mafex characters in the foreground and then use those Marvel Legends closer to the background to where you can't tell the, you know, the quality difference and everything. But yeah.
Yeah, I would agree. It'd be cool to see some bigger scale figures for Mafex, whatever we're calling it.
And you know, Mafex, like with Beast, they would give us the lab coat. They would give us 2 or 3 faces, you know, so you get a growling face.
Glasses.
Glasses, yeah. I mean, you might even get a hand holding the glasses or something, you know, it's just a little like that tops it off. Yeah.
All right, here comes another one from Vasco. If you can you give some tips on how to sculpt realistic rock forms? I think you hit on some of this, but
mostly I would just say reference and then just trying different things with your tools because, you know, the issue with using the razors is the shape, right? So it's like it's kind of hard to get different shapes with that particular thing because it tends, even if you're like popping pieces out of there, it's really easy to start making things that look manufactured. And when I say that, I mean like as far as the facade that we're trying to create. And you know, I always say, you know, try not to be too repetitive. Even like, you know, if you're texturing like for bricks or the side of a building, you know, turn, you know, whatever it is that you're using to texture, don't just literally keep going with the same movement because you're going to create repetitive shapes. And you're, you know, the viewer, their brain is going to pick up on their shapes and it's going to bother them. They might not be able to put their finger on it, but it's going to bother them. So yeah, so pay attention to those types of things like rotating whatever you're using. Use multiple things to texture because they all create different shapes. So yeah, hopefully that answers that.
And I think this is going to be kind of answered with your previous question, but what is your best advice for a beginner?
I would say don't look at people that have been doing it for years and just you know, to think that like you'll be able to produce that, you know, because I feel like there would be a lot of letdown to where it's like, because again, even what we were talking about earlier, there's so much experimentation going on. So if you could just more so focus on experimenting and just trying different things instead of, you know, getting discouraged if something doesn't work out, you know, so just keep trying it, you know, and if it's something where, if a particular piece, if it does get to the point where you're beating the dead horse, put it to the side and try another one. I guarantee you, you might not be able to see the difference between this one and the next one, but I guarantee, 5 down the line, you're going to see some advancements going on, and you would have learned so much between those 5. So I just say, again, don't get discouraged. Just keep, trying different things,
Here we go. Don't try and replicate, create.
Yes, that's right. That's right.
And use references.
Yes. Yep.
All right.
And
I think that was the last.
Going and looking at something, because even like reference pictures, sometimes, because you're only looking at it from one particular view. So sometimes it's easy to get things kind of mixed up. So if there's a way to get multiple angles of, whether it's a building or whatever it may be, and I guarantee you little things will start firing off in your head where you're like, oh man, let me think, add some wires right there, or I could add some pipes, or, and don't hesitate to ask questions, because yes, there are, unfortunately, because people do make money off of making dioramas, right? So there is a gatekeeping going on, and that's within almost every craft or industry. It's like trying not to let let these things that you figured out go because somebody else could use it against you,
Right.
And to be honest, I mean, there's a lot of times where you could just post something and somebody gets inspired by it, and they might not be creative enough to like do their own thing, and so they kind of like replicate it, and it's just going to happen. It's just it's like with music artists, it just is what it is, and just try not to be offended by that. Take it as a compliment, and because regardless of what anybody tries to do, they'll never be able to do what you do. Your style will always be your style. So yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if we were talking about this backstage or if it was earlier, but like if someone comes to me with a piece that, for instance, that you made with these rocks, like, hey, I want this. I'm going to be like, that's not I don't do that style. I can do that, but it won't look like that. I don't have that particular style. If you want that, you need to go over to Lawless Studios and ask them to make it.
Yep. And what's funny about that, and I don't blame anybody for doing that, but sometimes it seems like, well, they're trying to do it for this price. I was going to try to see if you could make it for cheaper. It's like, well, that, if it's off of a video game reference or something like that, but if they just made that out of their head, it's like, I feel like I would be stepping on toes, trying to recreate that.
Yep.
So yeah.
All right, cool. This is going to come from White Vegeta. Mike, what's up, Mike? Do you ever get tired of making Dragon Ball stuff?
Honestly, the Dragon Ball wave, I would say, has kind of like diminished itself. Like when I first got started, like literally, and I'll make these every once in a while. This was like that same like layout, but with a new, like using these kind of like tiered rock pieces, but usually I don't get too many requests nowadays for like Dragon Ball Z stuff. Usually it's for like, Marvel related or fantasy type of stuff. But again,
I was going to say, I think all your pieces meet all those kind of, like you could put Dragon Ball, you could put, Marvel, you could put DC, all in these type of things. Like I could see Superman in there. I could see, any of these lines. Conan just came out. That'd be a perfect piece for Conan. I think you're hitting all these different lines with a single piece.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Especially that swamp. I think Conan would be like perfect with a Medusa head or something walking through the swamp. Yeah, that's gonna be crazy. But yeah. So I definitely agree with you. But and that's what I was saying earlier too, if you're a mechanic, you don't like changing tires, and that's probably what most people come in for, but it's what makes money. So you have to do those things to bring that in. And that's why I always try to say, if you're doing something that's monotonous or something that you're not totally excited for, that's why you always have that side piece, to where that's what keeps that fun and that creativity and the kind of like wonder of, and that's why we all kind of started this in the first place. It was like, I wonder if I can make that look like how the ACBA guys are, or like, or like some of the drawings that I've done. Can I make it, look similar to that? And I think we've all done a good job at that. So yeah, definitely pretty cool. But yeah.
All right. We got a couple more here. This is going to come from Star Marble. What's up? What is the most therapeutic part of your diorama making?
I definitely the terrains, because again, when I do the bricks or architecture, usually I'm like, and I try, try to remember, just relax, but usually I'm like in that crouch pose, and you're like focused in and trying to get all your lines, matched up and everything. And yeah, so I think the terrains are definitely a nice thing to kind of keep me balanced to where, again, I can work on it and I'm thinking, and there's problem solving going on in my head, but it's more of like I hate to be corny with it, but it was like that kind of Bruce Lee thing where you're like water and you're just kind of flowing with it.
I was running through some comments. Diorama was saying thanks, and how much effort he's putting into his trees. Oilers, yeah, right. Don't undervalue yourself. Definitely. That Dan Who shirt, right? Legends and liquor. Got to represent.
That's what's up.
Got UU, got Odious up there as well.
Right. And look at that, like these different, like the shirt and the hat, right. It's like, it doesn't even have to be, like, because I know that's based on Unparalleled's Odious head, but it's like there's merchandise right there, so it's like it just depends on how far you want to take it. And one thing it didn't hit me until like an older age, but how some things just exist and you're like, wow, that's like a thing, like something like Walmart, it's like so official. It's like it's a thing. It seems like it's just always been here, but that was something that somebody made. It wasn't a thing, or like Amazon, just the concept of Amazon wasn't even a thing 10, 15 years ago, where you could just go buy anything and everything on this particular website. So just remember that when you're creating your brand, whether it's dioramas or anything art related or whatever your craft is, it's like, or what we were talking about earlier with the Diocon. It's not a thing yet, but we can make it a thing, And so just remember that anything is, that sounds corny. Anything's possible though, for sure.
No, it really is. I mean, Shatner just went into space. I don't think it was really space. It was the outer atmosphere, but everybody thinks Shatner went to space, made sure the Earth was round, right? Anything is possible.
Yeah.
What I was going to say is like Amazon, comparison, like, everybody was like, oh, what is this? But now everybody has to be like Amazon to survive if you're a retailer, right? These companies are going belly up because, they weren't, trying to reinvent or look at what's happening or try something new, right?
Right.
So some great analogies there.
Netflix and Blockbuster, I mean, that's why Blockbuster could have been Netflix, but they couldn't evolve with the time. And, that's even something with us as diorama artists, is like this osmosis and this kind of building process keeps going. You have to kind of, it doesn't, don't make it feel like you have to keep up, but at the same time, you have to keep evolving, and keep moving with the times. To where, like, for instance, I had an idea, like, if you've been on Domino's or Pizza Hut's website and how you can build a pizza, and how you can add your meats and your cheeses and all these different toppings and stuff. Imagine a website like that, but based on dioramas, something where you could like pick out the floor and then you can pick, do you want wood or concrete or whatever? And then you pick out your walls and do you want it destroyed, wallpaper, but, and like you just have all these options that a client could like lay out for you and then you make it, so like little things like that would be good innovations to our craft.
You're letting those secrets fly here.
Oh yeah.
Anything posable? What's up? Yeah, that would be amazing. All right, got a few more questions here. Which was oh, here we go. Star Marvel with another one. Do you still have the first tree you ever made?
No. Yeah, I was talking to my girlfriend about it earlier, and we were talking about some of the first pieces, but And it's so funny because sometimes when I do my lives, I'll have people asking, why don't I have stuff in my detox? But literally everything that I've made, people want to buy. So I'm like, you know, I don't know. Like I said, I'll put it in there and then somebody wants it. So I'm like, oh, let them enjoy it. And that's the cool thing about what we do too, is like why I'm not so attached is because I can make it at any time. It's like, it's okay. It's okay if it goes, I mean, don't destroy it, but it's okay if it leaves. There's no like anxiety of like, but I'll never be able to make something like that again. It's like, no, we can recreate these things on a dime. So
Right.
yeah,
if you build it, they will come.
that's right.
All right. Last question. This is going to come from the Diorama project, who will also be on later season 2, I think in late November, early December. Have you ever considered model railroads? Your terrain work is insane.
Capitals. Thanks. Like I said, I think, yeah, I'm not into trains that much, but I really do appreciate those things. And that's why I always try to kind of pull things from that, not culture, but that community itself, to where I'm like, what can work best for us? But yeah, I mean, I think if I did have somebody that messaged me and was like, hey, I want a train diorama and, I want to be able to put this train with these railroad tracks. And I think I would totally try to do it because that would just be fun. And then you could put Ant-Man, in his grown up scale, Gundam Wing, I mean, King Kong, all that kind of stuff. So, I mean, yeah, that would be fun. I just, to my clientele, I just don't know if anybody would buy that or like who I would advertise that to sell it. But yeah.
So people were saying some other names in here. I don't know the context, but anything Posable and Crashbox, definitely 2 great diorama artists. But I don't get the context of why they're being shouted out. But yeah, those are 2 other great diorama guys.
Yeah.
HO scale dioramas. I don't. You're all into 1/12 scale, right?
For the most part, again, I know Phoenix Blue, he just got a commission for 3 3/4 scale figures. And I think that would be a fun scale to work with. I just haven't yet to get anybody, that asked for something. And myself only have like 2 or 3 figures. So it's just not one of those where I'm like, I want to, make that. But yeah, but usually I'm down for whatever scale. Even if somebody wanted like human scale stuff, I think I would try to do it.
Nice. Well, cool. That's all the questions from Instagram. Thank you, everybody that contributed those questions and participating. I like to keep that going to keep, the connection between Instagram, YouTube, and all of us on the live here, connected to help, continue to grow the channel. So thank you very much. Thank you, Lawless, for answering all those questions for us.
The questions too. I hope I answer them okay.
Sounded great to me.
Thanks. Yeah. If anybody does, ever have any questions, I try to answer messages as fast as possible. But yeah, it's definitely time consuming for sure with everything for sure.
Yeah, I bet you get a lot of questions about your terrain and rocks, and you probably answer the same question probably a lot, right?
Yeah, that
same questions.
Even prices on commissions and that's like its own thing because I wish there was just like a cut and dry, like when people will say this is my idea, what will that cost? And it's like I kind of have to, I got to go in on some questions to kind of focus in on what you want, to give you the best price possible. So
Force.
And that actually came from shoot, that was like 3-4 years ago at this point. But what was it? Reverse 796, Vasco. But yeah, they would always join me on some of the live shows, and we came up with the Dioforce. So we always throw up the Dioforce.
I use that just about in every post. Dioforce. Exactly.
So yeah.
Awesome. Well, let's do this. Let's get into the giveaway portion of the show. That means we're coming to the end of the show, guys. Try to save this to the end. But tonight we have a figure that comes from Toy Maestro over on Instagram. Make sure you give him a follow, especially if you win this figure tonight. In the description below, you'll find Lawless Studios, as well as Toy Maestro's Instagram handles. Make sure you're following those guys. But this is the figure we have for tonight. The Crimson Empire. What's the name of this figure, actually? The Carno Jack? I don't know. I don't really recognize this figure. I don't know the name, though. But
oh, that's Black Series. Okay.
Black Series Star Wars figure, new in the box. Anyway, this is going to go to one lucky person that this guy, where's he at? Oh, awesome. My finger doesn't come across the screen. That Ron picks out for one of you guys. And if you have a hard time picking, we can always do a spinny wheel. We could do a trivia question. Whoever answers first, you know, we could, I don't know, there's a bunch of things we could do. Or you can just pick somebody based on the questions.
Okay, let's see. Well, my question is, I mean, because, you know, there's a lot of us that are blessed with having a decent amount of action figures. I want to know who doesn't have a lot of action figures, who needs one and hasn't got to get one in a while. Or should I just pick a random name? What you think?
It's up to you. I'm sure everybody is super trustful here, and they would give us, you know, they wouldn't tell us they needed figures when they really don't. But it may be more fair just to pick something.
Okay. All right. I'm just going to scroll, and then I'm going to grab a name. Okay. Here we go. Ready? All right. I got Dragon Eyes 69.
There we go.
Alone.
Let me know you're here. I know I saw you earlier.
That's sweet. Yeah, Dragon Eyes 69.
I have almost no figures, LOL, but be random, man. I have way too many figures.
Yeah, not you 796. No, just
yeah, I'll probably end up just buying it from you in 6 months anyway.
Right. I know. I always try to get his figures that he puts up. I still have he sold me his Bumblebee from 3-0. Man, I love that figure very much. Like, and apparently they're coming out with a 6-inch line, so I'm really excited about that.
Interesting. Hopefully they'll scale right, because I am definitely interested in the non-transforming Transformers. Like, I like the red line, but they don't scale with one another. Bumblebee was as big as Starscream and Prime. It didn't make any sense.
Yeah. I don't know if that was like a test wave, or like maybe they might have had like 3 waves planned out. But yeah, I think they dropped the ball with that. But apparently there's a lot of people that just hate the idea of a non-transforming Transformer.
Oh, yeah.
But
it's as two-sided as politics.
Yeah. And my thing was like, you know, there can totally be both. And like, I'm totally fine with like, you know, even Bumblebee. If you were to sell me a car and then sell me Bumblebee too. So then, you know, depending on what photography I'm doing, I can like swap them out, you know? Because the Transformers line, as far as transforming figures, that'll always be a forever thing, you know? And even those are getting better with like ankle pivot and wrist swivel and hands and stuff like that. But it's still, you know, it's like you're sacrificing the engineering you're sacrificing the looks for the engineering. And sometimes I just want to be able to get them in a badass pose. But yeah.
Can Lawless hit me with a Myers house, though?
Myers. Oh yeah, all day. Honestly, you know, to be perfectly honest, they have great houses at Hobby Lobby that you can buy prefabricated, that are like so similar to a Myers house. But you know.
Oh yeah. You still got to put them together though.
I think it's more expensive if you buy the ones that are already put together, but they'll make it for you.
Oh, snap.
I would suggest, like you said, because I mean they have like a 2-story house for like $80. But if you
can't beat that.
get them to make it, I mean, I think it's like $250, $300, which is still cheaper than a diorama that I would make. So,
right.
You know, like I said, that would be your best bet for sure.
So I'm not getting a response from Dragon Eyes, and I don't know who they are. So,
all right, I'm gonna pick somebody else. Let's see.
I feel bad if I know who they are, but I don't. I'm not thinking who they are, and I already have enough names in my head.
Let's do what's that? Random diorama.
Here we go. They had a bunch of questions. you still here?
Random diorama.
Random diorama. That's random or diorama geek or random geek. What's the name? I should probably know that name. Yeah, random geek. Yeah, so random diorama. If you're still here, just let us know and send me your address on Instagram.
Oh God, watch it. Did he leave too? Oh no! Everybody tells them congratulations, and they're not even here. Okay, cool. All right.
There he is. All right, congrats. Hit me up on Instagram, High School Creations. Send me your address.
And I do have to say, I really think that's cool for the people that do give stuff away, because, like I said, that's time and money, man. It's really neat to have things like that, especially again, for people that don't really have figures. I think that's like such a cool opportunity to win something. So yeah, good stuff.
Yeah, I was going back actually the other day because it's odd to think about, but including the reunion, like Toy Maestro and myself have given away over 40 something figures.
Wow,
that's crazy because I'm coming up on. No, I'm sorry, not 40. It was like more like 32, but it's getting close to 40. But there's been 25 episodes, and then I gave away like 10 figures in a reunion show. So yeah, it's been a lot of figures.
That's cool, man. Definitely, I know that makes a lot of people's days. So that's really neat.
Oh, especially when all they gotta do is come out, have fun. It's not one of those things where you like post someone's name on Instagram and random draw. I want people in the chat interacting with the artists, getting to know us, right? And I think that's what's going to help grow the community. And that's what I'm all about, is growing this community. So it's a very enticing way to get people here, and hope they enjoy it, because it's not just a figure. Shipping is expensive. A lot of times, shipping is more than the figures cost these days. So yeah. But yeah, I enjoy doing it. I want to give back when I can, and Toy Maestro the same way, right? That's why we joined up to do this. So.
Very cool.
Awesome, guys. Well, I think we're going to start getting out of here. But before we do, Ron, tell everybody how they can find you or talk to you or, reach out to you if they want to.
All right, guys, you can find me on Instagram at Lawless_studios. I'm also on Facebook at Lawless Studios, dioramas and more. So yeah, those are the main two places. Hopefully I'll have a website up soon. And I just, like I said, I appreciate all the love and support and the osmosis that we have in this community. It just, like I said, it's one of those things where even when you're down, and you see somebody post, some uplifting, comment, on their work, or like I said, even seeing somebody putting in a lot of work on their stuff, it just keeps me motivated. So you guys keep it up, and like I said, it keeps me going too. So
awesome. Cool. Well, next week is the 23rd, and it was supposed to be the Enablers episode. So it was going to be Kev, 796, and Prime. There was a lot of people this season that wanted to be on. I was like, well, how do I make this work? So we did an Enablers episode. Unfortunately, all those guys backed out on me. So next week, we're not going to do a live. I'm just kidding. They didn't back out. We decided to take a break because there would have been so many Enabler weeks in a row. And I think there was some scheduling conflict. So next week is actually probably going to be an off week, but I'll have something special up for you guys to fill this spot. Probably some sort of how-to video or maybe behind-the-scenes video from Patreon that I will give out here next week. But after that, we will be in I think California, so that'd be November. Oh, no, there's Halloween. I can't do calendar. It'll be Halloween. And I don't think I have anybody for Halloween. So I may just dress up and come out live with you guys on Halloween night and just talk dioramas. But with that, guys, I'll get a post out. Make sure you guys are updated. We'll do something fun to fill those dates. But when we come back, we got a whole lineup. We got Diorama. We got Diorama Project. We got Geek Chick. We got Mike Hamsey. Who else we got in the lineup? We're coming towards the end, but we're going to keep this thing going until December, I think, right before Christmas. But anyway, guys, happy Saturday. Ron, I'm going to where let's talk backstage. But yeah, have a great night and see you most likely next week. And if I don't, the week after. Bye, guys.
Thank you.